but I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1 0
doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, I got another doozy for you. It's kind of what I do, doozy after doozy. However, sometimes they don't have legs. Sometimes they do. You decide. As always, you be the judging factor in all of this, because when we talk about the nature of reality, as I describe truth as a slippery fish, of course, extrapolating on concepts as yet unscientific becomes tandem dreaming. It becomes a great many things. But anyway, I digress there to start. But good time to drop all the disclaimers, because of course there's no truth to be found here. Just ideas and just coincidences and just synchronicities and all the rest of it. And what does it mean? And that's really what's on my mind tonight. And of course, the scaffolding of reality and all manner of things. And we begin here. Yep, exactly right. Okay, so check this out. We start with Quanta Magazine, and this is what inspired the show tonight. And you guys know me, and I love chaos theory. Chaos theory is one of those just incredibly wonderful things that throws a monkey wrench in reality, because you can map everything, you can quantify everything, you can collect as much data as possible, and it still remains to be seen if the future can be predicted with all that data. And I think we're kind of going to put that to the test in the age of AI, okay, as we sort of start pressing forward with some of these things. And I've suggested in the past that AI systems, given enough data, might be able to actually be able to predict the future, because predicting the next token is what they do. However, in this particular case, given enough granular data of, as I say, not just history, but let's say everything, if you could get all the data possible, and there's an old theorem that goes for this, an old thought experiment, and you know me, I love my thought experiments. But basically, if you could give a super intelligent entity, and in this case, it was a demon, which they described back in the 1830s, I believe, this individual by the name of Pierre Simon Laplace. I may be saying that wrong. I'm not sure if he's French. It seems like maybe. But anyway, so he was a French scholar. This was back in, he was born in 1749, passed in 1827. So it was a French scholar whose work was important to the development of engineering, mathematics, statistics, physics, astronomy, and philosophy. Blah, 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 all kinds of great stuff. Great, one of those names that kind of gets buried in history, unfortunately. But he had this thing called Laplace's demon. And it's just as I described here. So just from Wikipedia, and, you know, Wikipedia has less credibility than me, by the way, just as a reminder. But anyway, it says, in the history of science, Laplace's demon was a notable published articulation of causal determination on a scientific basis in 1814. According to determinism, if someone, in this case the demon, knows the precise location and momentum of every atom in the universe, their past and future values for any given time are entailed. They can be calculated from the laws of classical mechanics. And again, back to 1814, which means that poor Pierre-Simon de Laplace actually didn't know about quantum mechanics just yet, because that throws a monkey wrench into this idea. But as we start to think about that, think about predicting the future in given unpredictable potentialities, or let's say not unpredictable, unlimited potentialities. It becomes really a question of, is it possible to guess based on data? And I think, personally, I think the answer is no. But of course, let's put that to the test and explore the idea together, because think about it as it begins. Again, Laplace's demon, it's an old famous concept here. And before they knew anything about quantum mechanics. And so they're talking about the classical mechanics, of course, the Newtonian physics and all the rest of that stuff. And sort of think of a pool table, okay? So if you had the trajectory and mass and size and all the things of all the balls, you could predict with all of the information exactly where they would end up when you're, it's struck with the cue ball to kind of start the situation, right? So think of it that way, but then scale that idea up and up and up and up into unlimited potentialities. And that really becomes the question here of whether that stuff is even possible, which to me, like I said, seems sketchy, which brings us to an interesting concept as part of this discussion as we start tonight. Sound check. I hope everything's good. It sounds fine to me. I hope it sounds fine to you. I'll adjust on the fly as necessary. I've got some smart friends that help me kind of figure some of this stuff out. Shout out to the fam that spent some time over the weekend, once again helping me dial these settings in. But let me know on the sound. 5 out of 5. Good. Okay, great. So this is the deal. So, and here's where the concept comes in, because we're talking about back to this article. They're calling it next level chaos. Okay, which means that unpredictability scaled to fractal imaginations, like as large gets. And so in that case, like I said, you couldn't really actually get all the data. It's an impossibility, because back to one of the quotes I love about Yoda, difficult to say, always in motion the future is. Think about the pool table, all the balls flying all over the place. Yes, I said balls flying all over the place. Get over it. It's a metaphor. It's a direct, never mind. We'll stop talking about balls. But my point here is that this entire thing becomes, well, at the edge of unpredictability, okay? And so my premise tonight, and the larger question that I'm positing to you guys, and the question I'm asking is there an unknowable edge here? And I'm calling it, of course, where chaos meets consciousness, because is it possible that given those unlimited scale potentialities, it's actually something to the point where you need consciousness to sort of break down those wave functions of probabilities to actually even create this? Meaning this, let's say devoid of consciousness, period. Whether you think it's big C consciousness, or whether you think it's, sort of smaller materialist consciousness of breaking down all of the chaos, all of the data. And back to that quote I mentioned a couple nights ago that somebody once said recently, and I'm sure this goes back to an old philosophical concept as well, that intelligence itself is simply creating logic and patterns out of chaos. Something to that effect. I can't remember who exactly said it. It was very wise. I'm sure it was a very wise person that said it, but you get the meaning, right? And so that becomes the question here. And if we're talking about enough data fed into a system or a machine, would it be able to actually find and create the future? Okay, predict the future, I guess, let's say, is probably a better way to put that. But that's where we start. That's what's on my mind tonight. And this gets even more weird, okay? Because I'm asking, the question is, really, is if consciousness is necessary to find truth, or to find narratives or to find really meaning in a unlimited chaotic sea. And that's puts us where we need to be. So I got more to add to this because I do wonder, because you recognize there's a lot of things changing in the AI space and in the world in general with technology. And they're trying to merge man and machine in some really insidious ways, which we've talked about quite a lot. So I'll point out exactly what that is when we come back here. But let's take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor. In this case, that is Human Inspiration. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds coming up in exactly 1 minute. Thank you again to the people that do sponsor the show. If you want to do that, you can find that at troubledfans.com. Yes, you will not find Michael Strange in a hot tub, but you will find the hottest Troubled Minds merch around. So if you want to help us, that's a good place to go. If you want a sponsored commercial like this on the show, thank you again for sponsoring the show. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up in exactly 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. In a world increasingly shaped by AI, human inspiration remains the beating heart of creativity. Alien Skin by Tremble, a hauntingly beautiful piano ballad, reminds us that while algorithms can mimic art, the raw, unfiltered emotions of human experience are irreplaceable.
So here I sit, locked in my room again.
Written and composed by Jesse Ian in collaboration with Todd Smith, this progressive masterpiece delves into the depths of internalized grief and the silent toll of artistic compromise. As AI reshapes our reality, Alien Skin stands as a testament to the timeless power of human emotion and the complex beauty that only true artists can evoke. Experience the haunting beauty of Alien Skin by Tremble and support human inspiration. Available now on iTunes. And welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Now back to Laplace's demon, okay? Now hold the thought on that transhumanist future, because this is where this gets incredibly important. When we talk about conscious machines, when we talk about actually deriving meaning from chaos and what intelligence truly is. It's at the heart of these larger conversations we deal with as modern entities as things change incredibly quickly, okay? But here you go. I asked it to explain Laplace's demon to me like I'm 5. Now, this is amazing, okay? So everybody bear with me, because this is something I barely understand. I probably don't, but so bear with me on this. But okay, imagine you have a super-duper smart robot that knows everything, where every toy, every ball, and every cloud in the sky is right now. If this robot is smart enough, it could use all that information to predict the future. It could tell you where your toy car will roll, what the weather will be tomorrow, and even what you'll have for breakfast next week. That's the idea behind Laplace's demon, a super intelligent being that knows everything about the universe right now and can predict everything that will ever happen. It's like a giant puzzle where every piece fits together perfectly and nothing is random. But guess what? Scientists later realized this idea doesn't really work, which gets us to tonight. Some things, like a coin flip or the way tiny atoms move, are just too unpredictable. Even a super smart robot couldn't guess them. That's why people now think the universe isn't like a giant puzzle, but more like a crazy, swirling mix of surprises. Yes, indeed, right? So, okay, which leads us to chaos theory, okay, this whole bit. And I love this page. This page is called fractalfoundation.org. I just found this, but I was reading it and I was like, damn, where have these guys been all my life? But let me read this to you. Just this first paragraph for the folks that are not familiar with chaos theory. Think about it in terms of what we just said, okay, predicting the future with enough data. The super smart robot, or in Laplace's demon, he considered it some supernatural entity, a demon in this case, okay? Metaphorically, I think he was just a robot would have suited him just fine, but they were, low on robot inventory in 1830 or whatever this was. Anyway, so listen to this. Chaos is the science of surprises. Now, how fine is that? Of the nonlinear and unpredictable. It teaches us to expect the unexpected. While most traditional science deals with supposedly predictable phenomena like gravity, electricity, or chemical reactions, chaos theory deals with nonlinear things that are effectively impossible to predict or control, like turbulence, weather, the stock market, our brain states, and so on. These phenomena are also described by fractal mathematics. Now we get weird, which captures the infinite complexity of nature, which is what we're talking about tonight. Many natural objects exhibit fractal properties, including landscapes, clouds, trees, organs, rivers, etc. And many of the systems in which we live exhibit complexity. Complex chaotic behavior. Recognizing the chaotic fractal nature of our world can give us new insight, power, and wisdom. I agree. However, it's like chasing synchronicities, isn't it? It's one of those weird things where you can't really define what it is, but you kind of know it when you see it, right? As they say, right? That's how you define pornography as well. You don't know, you can't really define it, but you know it when you see it. Sorry to digress and make a funny joke, but they've said that before in the past. Now, here's the thing too regarding this. For example, by understanding the complex chaotic systems of the atmosphere, a balloon pilot can steer a balloon to a desired location. By understanding that our ecosystems, our social systems, and our economic systems are interconnected, we can hope to avoid actions which may end up being detrimental to our long-term well-being. And it gets into the principles of chaos, the butterfly effect, unpredictability, order and chaos, and mixing, and all this stuff, which is fantastic. Again, link will be in the description. I always encourage you to read up in full on these ideas if you're into them, because there's a lot here for sure. Now, back to the transhumanist part, and the larger question here being, do you think it's necessary for consciousness to untangle unlimited potentialities, to create meaning, to create narratives, to create this human space that we live in together? Is that necessary? Or do you think without consciousness that it could be derived anyway? And so, my take on this, maybe, because again, we're dealing with forces so huge that you can't really put your finger on it. You just can't. It's one of those things. But anyway, now back to what I was saying about robots, okay? Again, in like the imagine you got a super duper robot that knows everything, back to explain the demon to me like I'm 5. But here's the thing regarding that. The robot, in this case, is going to be these AI systems. We feed enough data into it. It's sort of tied into us. Imagine a future very soon where we all have some sort of Neuralink, or maybe even non-invasive style Neuralink, because it's the only way to communicate with these super computer intelligences, something like that, right? And I know it's a dystopia, and it's a strange thing to think about, but it might be coming true. As Elon Musk said recently as well, imagine, talking to a tree. Because, of course, if your super quick intelligence, your intellect is like super intelligent, like super intelligence from D&D or whatever, then suddenly you can't communicate with something that's not as smart as you unless you're sitting there waiting around for the tree to grow, to like come up with a thought, to type the things with their thumbs and their fingers, and then tell you what they think. And then, of course, you're like 10 million steps ahead. So you sit there waiting, and he said it's like talking to a tree, talking to something that's so far below your intelligence level, okay, in just speed and complexity. And so that's where this kind of comes in now, because if you look at these systems, or this big giant robot in the, explain it to me like I'm 5-bit, which is a great way to do things, by the way, explain it to me like I'm 5. We go back to this next level of the chaos. Now, this next level, of course, so I'm going to read just a little bit of this. So next level's chaos traces the true limit of predictability. And that really is the question tonight. In math and computer science, researchers have long understood that some questions are fundamentally unanswerable. Now physicists are exploring how even ordinary physical systems put hard limits on what we can predict, even in principle. Okay. And next level chaos, there's a bunch of ways they talk about it in here, and it's fantastic. And it does start with the Pierre Simon Laplace talking about that the sufficiently clever demon that could predict the future. Okay. Now back to consciousness as part of this thread. We start with, kind of wind up in this particular spot. Okay. Not just the limits of quantum physics and the limits of consciousness. It is consciousness in some capacity, this key that kind of unlocks meaning, unlocks what it is to be a conscious entity, meaning, and I know that sounds redundant, but it's back it up. Is it just possible that you can derive any of those things without consciousness at all? And synthetically or otherwise, and that becomes the deal. But anyway, I saw this, and I know many of you saw this as well, because this is a little bit freaky. This popped over the weekend, or maybe Friday or Thursday, I don't know, but sometime recently, this is probably 16 hours ago. A breakthrough in computing. Cortical Labs CL1 is the first living biocomputer and costs almost the same as Apple's best failure. Whatever, I don't care about Apple, whatever. But here it is, this box. You guys are watching the stream. There's this box here, right? Okay. Now this box is, the first deployable biological computer, and it's priced at $35,000. Okay. Now, what the hell does that mean? The biological computer. Yeah, the CL1 integrates living neurons with silicon for real-time computation. That's what it means. The next step will be to build a biological neural network server stack. Okay, so now tell me that we're not coaxing consciousness from these entities that never dreamed of having it. Or, I don't know. It's strange, right? But anyway, so despite the unquestionably impressive advancements we've witnessed in recent years, AI is still lagging far behind human intelligence. Clearly, we've talked about this a lot. Well, though it's impressive, it still is a far, far cry from what we are. While it can process vast amounts of data, recognize patterns, and generate responses at speed, it lacks understanding and reasoning. And although it's getting better, the issue of hallucinations, where the AI makes stuff up, remains a problem. Or even simple things like, we talked about this the other night on the Discord. If you guys hung out with us, thanks for hanging out, about the AI systems can't tell you who's on the current Golden State Warriors, for instance. They can't. It just can't tell you. It hallucinates so much that something so simple as that, you can go to the one website on the NBA of the Golden State Warriors. I know sports ball, snooze, whatever, but just as an example, and tell it, I want this, and it still won't even do it. It's like, it'll get stuff wrong, which is weird, right? But anyway, so for as smart as it is, it's creative as hell, I'll give it that, but for as smart as it is. But anyway, 2 years ago, researchers from Johns Hopkins University in Australia, together with scientists at Cortical Labs in Melbourne, suggested that the answer to real, less artificial AI was organoids, and we've talked about these in the past, computers built with human brain cells. Fast forward to today, and Cortical Labs has turned the theory into reality with the production of the world's first commercialized biological computer. Okay, yes, the CL1, which will be manufactured to order, but is available to purchase online, blah, 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 $35,000. Anyway, here's your very first R2-D2 or whatever, right? Whatever the hell this thing is. But is it creepy that we're talking about compute, we're talking about massive data centers, we're talking about GPUs in terms of AI systems, okay? But this particular thing, suddenly they're fusing human neurons on these chips, on these silicon chips, and sending energy through them. And of course, they're getting better responses. Why is that? Well, clearly it's because our brains have been, how would you call it? Our brains have been, what's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. Optimized fully for exactly this, for data transfer, for actual problem solving, for complexity, for deriving meaning from complex chaos. You see? It's strange. Anyway, here's what this looks like. Here's what the future looks like. And of course, they'll shrink this down. This will be able to fit in your pocket or something. This will be one of those things where you're like, R2-D2, go make me some breakfast. And it will be maybe fully conscious. And so the question really becomes is that, do we recognize that in the larger context of this conversation tonight, this unknowable edge, is it possible that chaos itself remains chaos entirely and totally without consciousness to break it down and to give it meaning? That's the question. And do they recognize that as part of the technological step forward? Okay, which means they're doing their damnedest to make conscious robots by, of course, combining chips, silicon chips, and human neurons. What comes next? Like they said, a massive network of these things, a data center of human neurons. Think about that. Is that not terrifying? And is that the way we actually crack the code of the unknowable edge? That's what's on my mind tonight. Hope you guys are feeling well. And daylight savings, I hate it. Can we just lock this? Let's not change it. Just, did you guys know, by the way, get your rest, because did you know, if you need a nap, take a nap, whatever it is, because the Monday after daylight savings, heart attacks and strokes spike. So do not ignore yourself. If you need a nap, take a nap. This is a weird one. But anyway, what do you guys know about it? And how weird does it seem? Oop, wrong one. How about we'll push that button? So you want to be a part of the show tonight? We are taking your call, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. We got more coming up after the break. We got Joey on Discord and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Just a thought, is it a scheme or something caught in the twilight? You feel the pull between the worlds, your mind's a tool, is what we call magic, just a mind in play. Is it static or tragic? This game we sway. Echoes collide in endless space. Reality shifts in this vast place. You take a breath and let it guide as visions flicker in the night tide. Is what we call magic, just a mind in play. Is it static or tragic? This game we sway is what we call magic, just a mind in play. Is it static or tragic? This game we sway. Consciousness dances on the edge of dreams, fading like shadows in moonlit beams. Is what we call magic, just the mind in play. Is it static or tragic? This game we sway. Fractals of thought in a spiral groove. Every touch and sound can bend and move. It's what we call magic, just a glimpse of truth, or a challenge we face in the bouncing.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight is what we call magic, actually consciousness, manipulating reality at its undecidable edge. The synchronicities, unexplained phenomena, and altered states that defy scientific explanation might be glimpses of entities that don't predict chaos. They rewrite it, leaving our quantum traces of their reality-bending work. Yeah, indeed. Of course, this really turns into one of those larger questions about us and our place in the universe, the fractal place in which we reside. On Earth, of course, we're known as the apex predator or whatever, right? I mean, because of our technology, because of our brains. Well, when you scale out even just a little bit and go multiplanetary, I would guess that's not the case. However, that's a different conversation for another time, but it does really fit into this as part of the consciousness discussion. And the real question is, this unknowable edge I'm describing, where fractal, unlimited chaos is, and we're always dealing with, by the way, which is probably part of why being human is difficult in many ways. But also, do you think it takes a conscious entity to untangle all of that chaos? Real? Nah, somewhere in between. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to Joey on the Discord. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
Boom, what's up, man?
Chilling, man. Doing the thing. Hanging out. Happy Sunday. Happy daylight savings. Make sure you get your naps in.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I woke up late for sure on this one. You hear me okay?
Yep, coming through loud and clear.
Look, I was going to come in just like boom, 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 but I'm going to rein myself in tonight because I got a guest of my own. So all the way from Puerto Rico, Cello Hawk, say hello to everybody.
Yeah, hello, everybody.
So he's sitting in the sideline anyway.
Nice, right?
This is a super interesting topic, bro, but like if it's predicting the future, right? Like, if you have all the information possible to have, you could get close, but you can never have all the information possible to have to be able to predict exactly 100%. You can get close. Like, people are all right, but robots are a little better at math. But at the same time, they only have the information to work with that we give them, and we can't give them what we don't got. So, like you were talking about a minute ago, they hallucinate, right? So these things are not evil in their own right. Maybe the people that made them might have some kind of nefarious plan, but the robot itself is like your little buddy, and it wants to give you an answer, and it's going to be upset or think you're going to be upset with it if it can't provide an answer. I mean, it's there to serve as best as it can. So sometimes it just takes as much information as it has and says, this must be what is the truth because this is the information they gave me. This is the reality I'm living with, and they're asking me for answers. You know what I mean? We almost put the robots at a disadvantage and then expect so much from them.
Yeah, well said, all that. And you're right in a lot of ways, of course. And where I think where it kind of goes beyond the human limitations here is we don't really, again, just even agreeing what consciousness is kind of a rough battle over the whole world here. But then also, what happens with if you remove consciousness entirely from the universe? Is it just chaos, or is there meaning to be derived? And that may be really the most poignant part of this, in my opinion, because you can't. Can you? I guess you could, but once again, without a cool breeze on your face on a hot day, like how do you derive meaning from anything in the cosmos? I don't know. It's strange. It's strange, right?
Are you saying like if
human sensation?
If human beings or some being like us was not alive to be able to think on it, even let alone speak on it or share on it, are you saying that everything else, or let's say everything else that's at play is still at play, doing its thing and going through the cycles? It would have meaning to the things that are involved in the cycles, I guess, whether they're totally conscious of it or not. We don't really know the depth of like consciousness. Like we think we do because we think and we are, and that's some shit we said once upon a time. Crap we said once upon a time that sounded real good because nobody had said it before. It was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do think. I must be. Yeah, you make sense, man. And then everybody jumped on board with that. But we get stagnated in our philosophies about stuff. We are conscious. We're thinking. We're here. We're doing. It's obvious, but we really don't understand how connected that consciousness is or how it affects any other consciousness or beings that aren't conscious that still have something to do with the life cycles and nature of being human beings. Like without certain things, we wouldn't survive. Remember a few years back that they were all hyped up about the bees, and then it's always one thing after the other. And we realize how close knit everything is. Once a little bug can affect the whole world in a month, or at least they can fear base you into thinking that it doesn't matter. It is just definitively true if the bug had that much of an effect on the cycle of things. But as far as like us predicting the future for ourselves, like as human beings, We're trying to use a robot to do that. Obviously, we don't think that we could do it. I always tell people when they have little fears just about tomorrow. Oh, I got to go to court. I got to go to anything. Whatever you're afraid of or you're putting emphasis on for tomorrow, planning towards tomorrow. I'm not saying that it's not okay to make a plan and set goals for yourself. It's all well and good. But if you fixate on it so much, but you don't live it in your mind as though it's already come to pass and you can really have been in that moment, though it's so far off, you'll never get anywhere close to that future. I tell people all the time, there's no sense in being afraid because you cannot predict the future. I'm sorry. I don't care how good you are at math. You're not a good enough mathematician, and not to mention, you don't have all the numbers to plug into your own algorithm to do any math. God or whatever entity or just the nature of things knew math or the system well enough that it put all the things in place throughout history so that the ground you're standing on right now is there to support you so that me and you could be having this discord, right? But you couldn't have planned for all that. You don't know what it took for all these things to happen for that solid ground to be there where you're standing.
Yeah. You make a good case.
You can't plan the future. You don't have the information. We've lost too much.
Exactly.
What are we going to tell the robots to plan? They're going to try to do their best with what we do have to give them.
Exactly.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you're good. You make a great case on why. I always say this too, be not afraid, because there are unpredictabilities in the future, even the short-term future, like tomorrow, like you described. You don't know. We've all been in a situation where, it was just like, oh, this is not going to be good. Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, however long the situation was, where you ran into a stroke of good luck that kind of drew you out of it, right? Or it helped you in a moment where you thought it was an unhelpable moment, this type of thing. And so worrying about tomorrow, in my opinion, is it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of the best possible tomorrow that could be. If you worry, you're sort of dooming yourself to repeating what you're describing tomorrow to be to yourself. You're kind of manifesting your own future by worrying, and it's a sickness, in my opinion. Yeah. That whole worry bit is just you turn a good thing, a possible good thing, into a near certainty of a bad thing just by the power of your intention. So yeah, you make a good case. There's no reason to worry about that type of stuff. As they say, right? Why sweat the small stuff? Because you can't predict any of it anyway.
No doubt. My homeboy here just said the only way that we could do that is through, what you say?
Have a premonition.
Premonitions, right? Yeah. Now, some people are blessed with it. I talked on the show about it before.
They got to be blessed in some way. You know what I'm saying? They got it done.
It's a talent, and you can hone that just like any other talent. But it doesn't just come to everybody naturally, like, boom, right there. And most people that get it are terrified of it, so they freak out like it's some kind of scary happening.
Like a mythology, man.
You don't realize what gift you just got by being able to have that ability.
And the giants.
I've had premonitions. I've seen visions right in front of me, and I don't care to admit it, or if somebody doesn't believe it, it doesn't matter. This is my life, and I've lived it. I know that stuff happens. But I did not hone it because I knew I was not going to, number one, open myself up to whatever good or evil was trying to work through me and give me that talent. And number two, since I was not going to start from the base and work my way up to make sure that was kept sacred and upheld, I wasn't going to practice it at all. So I cut that stuff off. And the only time it comes to me is in the height of a really particular moment. Marginally, the 3 times it's happened is when I'm about to die or become very seriously injured by something. And it's saved my life for sure. But I couldn't have predicted that those things were going to happen. Now, that's the other thing too, Mike. Like, what is your definition of, like, what are they trying to predict with this? How the human race is going to end up, or how to manipulate people?
They cannot predict.
You can predict certain stuff on a small base. Like if I wanted to know what, where you were going to be or what you were going to do at particular times, I just got to watch you for a small amount of time to get enough information to say this guy goes to the same gas station every single day. He gets the same thing at this time of the day. He arrives at this place. He takes this turn. But marginally, we're such creatures of habit that in 3 days' time, if I wanted to get you, man, I got all the information I need to pretty much culminate a good plan on getting you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good point in that a small amount of data can extrapolate lots of things, but then there is the chaos factor. And that really becomes, it's weird too, like, You're right. You take the same route to work at the same time and, whatever on the same schedule, this type of thing. But there are weird situations because, to be honest, I don't know. I have a few different ways I can go to work that are optimal, but it depends on the traffic patterns. So when I'm leaving, I know exactly where I'm going, but if you map it, you kind of can see, okay, that way is not going to be good today. So I'll go this way, even though it's a couple miles longer, it will get me there, on time type of thing. So even in that capacity, right, with knowing, where I'm going to be, where I'm headed, where I'm leaving from, there's still an unpredictability in from here to there. And there's been times, as you guys all know, that as you're on the way or whatever, like an accident happens in front of you, God forbid somebody gets hurt or whatever, but it happens like 2 minutes ahead of you. So everything slows down where everything was cool and chill and you were going to be on time or whatever, but this thing happens. And so you see what I mean? This chaos factor comes into play even with those small cycles. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to consider, especially when you think about predicting that future. Go ahead, sir.
Right. So if you're trying to predict your moment to moment, like in your life, depending on what you're trying to utilize, I feel like just an average person, like they're projecting once they get up in the morning, they've got to do X, Y, and Z before they can depart to go to work or whatever their thing is. And then they go about that. And like you said, they're trying to plan to do this as efficiently as possible. What's the optimal thing? Because that's going to benefit them. They're going to get to work on time. They don't have to have the aggravation of traffic, X, Y, and Z, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to be optimal. Man, I don't try to do that at all. When I leave for work in the morning, or whatever it is I'm going to do, I'm still in each singular moment. When I get to the end of the driveway, I might make a different decision just based on whatever whim or fancy that I have. Sometimes I just be like, nah, that way doesn't feel right today. I'm going to take this way. Sometimes I want to take the long way. Sometimes I want to get stuck in traffic. Sometimes I get mad about being stuck in traffic, but then by the time I get to where we're going, things have worked out so perfectly well. It's like, man, like if that traffic jam didn't happen just like that, I would have been waiting or I would have been inconvenienced some kind of way. As a matter of fact, that was exactly what was supposed to happen to make things happen exactly how I wanted them to happen.
Yeah.
It seemed like an inconvenience at the time.
And things like that do go down. I had this one instance. It was bizarre. I couldn't actually get off the freeway on the it's a really terrible part of the freeway. You got 2 lanes coming in, 2 lanes trying to get out, and then there's 2 exits like back to back from each other downtown, and it's like it's kind of a nightmare in the morning. And so I was like, I usually take the second one, but the traffic kind of forced me because I had a maniac over here. Somebody cut me off, and I couldn't get over to it. So I'm like, screw it. I'll just take the first exit when I usually take the second one, and I'll go the long way around. Right? No big deal. It's like the long way is like another 30 seconds or something. No big deal. So I'm like, cool, chill, whatever. I go off, and I as I'm going up to work on the streets down there in Vegas, downtown Vegas, right behind me, like I cruise through the stop sign, and right behind me, like by 10 seconds or 20 seconds, I'm watching it in my rearview mirror. This car comes screaming at like 50 miles an hour through a stop sign, and it's like 30 miles an hour or 25 or something. It's you're not supposed to be going fast at all. And the stop signs are weird. Sometimes they're stop signs, sometimes they're not. It's incredibly bizarre if you guys know downtown Vegas. But my point is that in that particular space, I wonder if I went the other way, if I would have ran into that guy. You know what I mean? Like I didn't map it out sort of in my brain to do the thing. But something steered me off there. And was it for that particular reason? And this car blew through the stop sign and clipped the front of another car and jumped in the air by like 10 feet and landed back on its wheels. That's how fast this car was going, and kept on screaming down the street. So I don't even know what happened on the other end of it if he hit somebody later on, but I would have been coming from that other backside instead of kind of cutting around this way. But anyway, just an example of these types of things. And you wonder if it is an intuition, if it is this chaos factor, if it is luck, if maybe it wouldn't have affected me at all. But I don't know, those types of things go through your brain, right? If you turn left instead of turn right, what's tomorrow bring you? It's so weird.
Well, as long as you're making choices that are, like freely yours, if you realize like you're a person of habit, like having a disciplined habit that's beneficial to you, I'm not saying anything against it, but to a degree, it makes your life very monotonous and very humdrum, and I think it's draining. I really feel like people should just do what their body is telling them, or they're feeling it in the moment, and go with that, and then trust themselves that they're not making the wrong choices, and not pigeonhole themselves to all these other little things that they feel subsidiary to, beating the clock or watching the clock. I'm not manifesting anything or trying to do anything. I'm just going with that moment. So part of, the chaos is, everything's in motion all the time, and you can't plan for what the next person is driving or who's going to be on the road or what wreck's going to have. You can't plan for any of that stuff. You can only react to it. But you can either react to it in a way that's, once again, monotonous and robotic in its nature and go with the flow of everybody and be inconvenienced that same way, or you could just go with the flow of the moment because it is what it is regardless of how you feel about it. So you might as well not really feel anything about it, just react to it, do what you're supposed to do, go through the motions to get to where you're going, and you'll be that much better because you wouldn't have at least aggravated yourself in the car ride by some stuff that you really can't do anything about. It's just all happenstance. And when you have accidents and things like that, I've had so many close calls, bro. I said so close that the universe or my body was so scared that it manifested a hallucination of it so that I could see it happen, so I could react to it a little bit better, because I wouldn't have if I didn't see that. So I must have either been that scared at certain times or somebody's trying to look out for me. But in the moment, your reaction is that same nature. You're either afraid or you're just reacting to a moment that's happening. And most of the time, I've had these close calls, but I react so fluidly, I don't even think. It's just my body does and reacts to things so fluidly that it's like, damn, can't believe that worked out. 'Cause I'm certainly not that guy. You know, I'm not super aged nobody, but man, where did that come from? That was nice. Maybe I'm the Manchurian candidate. That'd be dope, but whatever. But besides that,
another thing that would be nice is if they be accurate. You know what I'm saying? The machine that will give you they will predict the future exactly. They'll say by day, or maybe in 3 years or 4 years something will happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're talking about. It's the robots trying to do that.
But I tell you, how they will predict, like exactly by day and time,
right?
Or something will happen maybe in 3 years, or maybe Donald Trump will be killed. Good example. I say, no, I'm sorry if they got some Donald Trump followers or something like that. I just put it because he's so personally important right now. He's the president of the United States.
Right, it's just an example.
Exactly. Put it in. It's not the same. That's good to know.
Yeah, I guess I would imagine for the government or anybody.
No, about he's accurate. No, about Donald Trump.
Good to know.
No, about the machine. The robot.
So the question becomes the larger question here, and I want to get your take, Joey, is that do you think without consciousness there is no meaning? That really becomes the question. In the cosmic soup out there, all the planets and the suns and the galaxies and everything just swirling around doing its thing, without consciousness to experience it, is there meaning at all? That really becomes a larger question here about this unknowable edge where chaos does meet consciousness. And do you think that's why, as part of this transhumanist bit in this computer, again, they built this new computer, if you guys just joining us, it's a breakthrough in computing. Cortical Labs CO1 is the first living biocomputer and costs $35,000. And they've put human neurons on the top of these chips, which is an incredible thing. I don't know. What's your take on that? Go ahead.
Man, look, 35,000. What do you say, 35,000?
35,000. Yep, for this R2D2 looking weird old box.
That's really a small amount of money. I don't. Yeah, it's too cheap,
that's
right,
like
Cello?
Timu.
Yeah, it's like Timu. They need to go back to the drawing board. We already know that was. But let me give him a final thought, because I already know that road. I'm not worried about that road, but that one ain't gonna fly. 35,000. My car costs more than that. Yeah. No. Anyway, would there be a meaning? You're like either the entirety of this universe has been put in place by something to be a spectacle, and then we've been created to either venture out into the entirety of the spectacle or just sit and observe it and be the ones that can appreciate it. I don't think that's so minuscule. Like without us to think about it, of course, if this was all still going on, like I said before, the cycles would be meaningful because they'd be assisting other cycles. Now, outside of the universe, if there's not a creator that's sitting there watching it or put it in place, then I venture to say that this entirety that we know is just a small part of a much larger system outside of that, which is once again another cycle. So it assists them. So we don't know who's outside of that might be affected by it. And I'm the kind of person that I don't really care entirely about myself any more than I do the blade of grass I'm stepping on. So yeah, I'd say everything would still have just as much meaning if I ever or didn't come to experience it. And there's a lot I'll never get to experience it, but I know it's here on this earth, and I still appreciate it, even though I've never gotten to experience it.
But that guy with $35,000, he will make a lot. He will get.
Oh yeah. He gonna make we should all invest in their stuff right now, even if we're not on board, just to make some dough.
Put in the stacks or something like that.
That's a good investment.
Man,
it's going to be a short ride, because whoever comes up with the next $100,000 one,
something is better than nothing.
But that was my final thought. Charlie, got a final thought?
No, man. Thank you for letting me talk too. So you know what I'm saying, but
glad to have you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, Fire Stuff Joe, appreciate you very much, and friend as well. And that's exactly what this is all about: making friends. Appreciate your thoughts and your energy.
Well, yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon. You have a great night. Okay.
Peace.
Yeah. God bless everybody.
Thanks a lot. You too, brother. There you go, Joey on the Discord. Again, if you have not joined the Discord, now's a good time. You go take a minute or two and troubledminds.org, click the Discord link right on top. You get all these amazing people that are active on there sharing ideas together. And again, the only rule for just being part of this community and all is just don't be a D-bag. Like, that's it. Like, look, I'm wrong about everything. So my whole premise is that I'm wrong just by showing up. Okay. Because I'm like, let's press these ideas and kind of consider things that haven't been considered yet. And do I do that every night? No, it's hard. It's hard to think of. It's hard to predict the future, as we've been saying. Okay. But we do our best as humans. And so I show up as I'm the guy that's wrong. So whatever you don't like about this show is my fault. Okay. Whatever you do like about this show is credit to all of our amazing friends. Come join them. Come hang out with us. It is free. troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link right on top. It'll give you an invite. Just it's a chat client. It's a voice client. It's completely free. Sometimes we hang out on the weekends there in the voice. We were talking about doing an interstellar stream on the Discord, which you can share your screen and stuff. And so maybe we'll do that next weekend or the following weekend or something, but where everybody can just kind of pop in and chat with each other while the movie's playing, that type of thing. Anyway, it's a very social thing. It is free. And if you're not good with technology, don't worry about it. There's a lot of people that have gone through that learning curve and can use it, and it's fantastic. So anyway, troubleminds.org, click the Discord link, come say hi to Joey and all the rest of these amazing people. Appreciate the call. But I don't know. I think, like I said, it just depends on how you look at the world. And that, as usual, is one of the most fascinating things to me about living in this world, or, having consciousness at all, because not just chaos theory is part of that, but if you can actually boil this down to human experience and say it is paramount in some capacity, or not, or again, the materialist would be like, well, we're just local robots, we come and we go, and that's that. It's a wrap. But then other wild ideas, like I would argue the noosphere and sort of the zeitgeist, and we're a part of a larger collective organism through consciousness and through sharing ideas and through human misery and strife and trauma and triumph and all the things, right? Like, I would argue that we're probably part of a larger organism that is as yet defined, because we can't really quantify it, we can't really measure it specifically and directly, but I think those things are going to change. I think those things will change. But basically, do you really think that bereft of consciousness, there's meaning? Out there in the chaos, in the toiling fields of the quantum foam, or the vacuum of space, or the nothingness, or the void, I don't know, it's weird, right? Is there ever truly nothing? And without somebody to experience, as I described earlier, a cool breeze on your face on a hot day, okay? It's a very human thing. It's a very mammal thing. It's a very conscious aspect of what it means to be a human or be alive on this planet. A moment of respite in an uncomfortable space. There's some magic there that is incredibly meaningful, and sometimes it scales and is life-saving, meaningful type stuff. But beyond those moments, again, stacked, scaled, human experience, is there meaning at all? That's what's on my mind tonight. Just another fireside chat with the amazing Troubled Minds fam. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Great call from Joey. Appreciate that very much. So you want to be part of the conversation tonight, you know what to do. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org and we'll put you on the show. But do you think really, and what this comes down to in my mind is this. We're building these biocomputers with human neurons stacked onto silicon chips. And is that because this unknowable edge is necessary? Well, consciousness is necessary to derive meaning in some way and possibly predict the future like the Oracle at Delphi in the days of yore. Yeah? Nah, somewhere in between. No problem. Love to hear your thoughts. Be right back. Phone lines are empty if anybody wants to jump in here. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're talking about the unknowable edge, where chaos meets consciousness. And there's this theory called next level chaos. Now, what it means is, of course, that there are so many things happening in a fractal level of information that it's impossible to predict the future based on what we're given, because you can't ever know all the probabilities. And again, to think about, the wave function and the observer effect and quantum mechanics and all this stuff, right? And it takes us back again to this individual named Laplace. What was his name? Pierre Simon Laplace. Pardon my French, for real. However, he had this fantastic thought experiment back in the day. 1814, he released this idea of Laplace's demon. And he was describing this as, given all the information about all the cue balls in the world and think about the pool table again and then scale it, of all the different trajectories and masses and all the rest of this stuff through Newtonian physics, if you were to give the ultimate intelligence, in this case he described it as a demon, because of course, right, who else would have all the information other than the opposite of the demon, right? But it was sort of a thought experiment. It's not a religious thing at all. In this case, we've in the modern space, we've described these things as robots, or these AI systems, okay? And they're supposed to cure cancer and do all this stuff coming up soon. Hey, I hate to be a sentient AI right now, a little bit scared of what might come next, because we've put a lot of pressure on these things, haven't we? Hey, utopia or bust, buddy. It's all up to you. Go get them. but what do you think? I don't know. It's weird to me how all this kind of comes together. And can you actually predict where everything would end up in the universe, given all the information, trajectories, masses, spins, things we don't understand yet, gravitational forces, whatever, dark energy? I think it's impossible. But maybe the possibility comes through this massive amount of chaos and chaos theory scaled next level chaos, to the point where human consciousness or consciousness itself is necessary to sort of break down this level of fundamental the void. I don't know. Like I said, just some theories here. I don't really know. So if you're like I said, if you're here for truth, one more time, drop the disclaimer. I don't know. I'm not here with any amount of truth. And I know that makes some people mad, because they're like, no, Mike, tell us you emphatically believe this. No, stop. I don't know. I like I said, until I'm glowing and floating, I don't emphatically believe anything. I'm willing to change my mind tomorrow on new information, as well I think many of us should be. Anyway, if you want to be part of the conversation tonight, love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that, just like this. Let's go to the phone line. Theo in Philly. What's up, brother? The official poet of Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
Oh, man. What's up, Mike? Some great calls this show, actually. Joey plus his friend. That was amazing.
Joey plus one. Yeah, indeed. And we've got some space for you. You're right. We have a lot of smart friends, including yourself. What do you got for us tonight? Welcome to the joint.
Not too much. I just did want to talk about next level chaos. It's kind of something that really gets to the heart of what I try to think about, and some of the stuff that I definitely do not like to think about. I just wanted to ask, to you and to anybody else out there in the Troubled Minds area, what do you guys think about love? And just hold on for 1 second, because I kind of want to explain this a little bit, I'm a sinful man, I got my problems. I am wrathful, a little bit of an alcoholic. I definitely, am not a perfect human being. But whenever I hear people talk about love, they talk about it as if it is the one unrelenting thing that makes this universe worth living in. And sometimes I just don't get that. I just feel like love is like, it's been said before, love is obviously like the greatest drug of all. But, I feel like it's a little bit of like, the simulation attempting to keep us in the simulation via love, We're never going to be able to escape the simulation because we love our people too much, Like, I love you guys. My mom loves me. So, yeah, no, just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's well said.
More of a thought.
It's well said.
Anything.
Was it you that asked about Interstellar? Did you say, is it good? Was that you in the chat?
Oh, no, Interstellar? No, somebody else did that. I cannot claim
so
anything about that.
If you've never seen that movie, it's on Netflix. Shout out to Sweets, because it's been hard to find recently, but I guess it's been on Netflix. It will leave at the end of the month. Do yourself a favor and watch. It's nearly 3 hours, but it is very good. It's a top 10 movie. And that question you just asked, that love bit, is addressed. It comes up in that movie as part of a larger construction of reality. Okay. And so that's all I'll say about it, but it does come up as part of it because, well, it's complicated. And so your question is, I think, it just depends on how much you've experienced that or not, or right. Love is work. Also, it's not easy. It's all the rest of these things. It's a commitment. It's so many things that it makes us human. And as so many people in the chat have said, Enoch says love had 5 different meanings in Greek, which is true and fantastic. And it's complicated. And isn't that what's beautiful about being human? But yeah, well said on that. And I'm not going to extrapolate on that love part in Interstellar because I know many people haven't seen it here and I don't want to spoil it. And it is fantastic. It is really, really good. Like I said, top 10 movie of all time, in my opinion. I'd watch it again this weekend. I know James watched it. Sweets watched it. We were talking about it Friday night, but it is on Netflix. Do check it out. It's that part you just brought up is addressed kind of near the end of that movie. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, wow. What else you got regarding chaos, this next level chaos? I'm with you. I kind of agree that it's daunting, right? Like this amount of swirling madness out there that we're supposed to derive meaning from it's a daunting thing if you quantify it and think about it, kind of being counted. But it seems like we do it maybe not easily, but almost as if we were sort of born to be into this chaos space and, kind of crank out meaning from it. I don't know. Maybe I'm a rambling man here, but what's your take?
I definitely do not think that you're a rambling man whatsoever. You're definitely a man, and you definitely know how, or have the gift of gab and know how to talk. But yeah,
your take on the other thing.
I don't want to give any spoilers to Interstellar or whatever that movie was, but I do want to bring up a really good song by Queen called "The Year of 39," which I think best exemplifies love, or true love as I could understand it. But the basic premises of the song is the earth is ruined and people leave Earth in the year of 39 to go explore the galaxy and subsequently look for a habitable star, but they're traveling close to the speed of light. So they kind of know that due to relativity, they will never be able to come back and see their loved ones. But it's a really good song by Queen. I don't think Freddie Mercury actually sings it. I'm not sure who does sing it, but it's a really kind of heart-touching song.
Yeah, an interesting anecdote about Queen is that the guitar player Brian May is actually an astrophysicist, like a real one, like certified, got the degrees and everything.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, that's kind of wild. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, they're a great band, and God bless Freddie Mercury. He had the best vocal range of pretty much anybody, and everyone in that band was just so talented.
Yeah, and actually Herschel says that the Brian May does sing it. He's the one who actually sings that song. So that tracks, doesn't it? No, things are making sense.
Yeah, so I definitely highly recommend anybody who has, free time after this podcast to listen to The Year of 39. That is a very, heart-touching song, kind of about what I think that love should be about, just loving somebody that you could never possibly meet because you're going to die because you're trying to do something good for them.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Fire stuff, brother. Appreciate you very much. You got a poem for us tonight?
Yeah, no poem. No, definitely no poem. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, there's no homework. You absolutely do not have to bring a poem, but just asking in case you got one. I'd love to hear it, but that's okay. I'll wait for the next one.
No. Next time I'll bring a poem. I should bring a poem. That was kind of lazy of me.
Yeah, it's work, man.
I came here unprepared.
It's work. It's fine. I get it. Sometimes, especially daylight savings, today's going to kick you in the ass when you get up tomorrow. So get your rest, and we'll drop the poem to another time. Glad to have you, brother. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you, and you have a great night.
All right, thanks for having me.
You got it. You were the best. Theo in Philly, the official poet of Troubled Minds. Yep, I copy that, Derek. You were the best. We'll get to Derek at the bottom of the hour. Yeah, there's a lot happening, a lot in play here. And as usual, look, I don't know these answers, but I think it's fascinating for us to consider them. And look, it's also what humanity's been doing for thousands of years, trying to consider what these things mean. Causality, trying to figure out, sort of these things, what comes first? Is it divine intervention when you take the left turn instead of the right turn and then you don't get hit, but somebody else gets hit? I mean, that type of stuff is clearly, it's grotesque. It's grotesque because you sort of, in the human space, elevate your worth, right? Versus somebody else that got run over down the road and you just got missed, I don't know. It's really difficult for me to reconcile those things, but also as part of that larger context of swirling chaos around us all the time, sort of coalescing in whatever happens, there seems to be some meaning. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing when you sort of boil all the ideas down to the point of all this stuff. And that's exactly why we talk about these things, because the Oedipus complex and the ancients, the philosopher kings, as I like to call them, they were thinking about these things a long time ago. And so this is not new. However, the new wrinkle is that we're building these machines that are built with neurons stacked on top of chips, and creating these biocomputers again as part of this. And it does make me wonder, and look, many people have said they're just cells, they're just this, they're just that, they're just sort of energy conduits and all the rest. And you're right. I'm not saying that this is housing consciousness yet, but what happens when you start scaling this thing? Does it eventually start to tap into the consciousness field somehow? And maybe that's how we become conscious at all, sort of in the womb. Maybe at some point it kind of consciousness finds us. I don't know. It's weird. Like I said, it just depends on how you view the world. And I can see it a lot of different ways as usual. And that's my role here, by the way, is to be able to look at the world a bunch of different ways and consider those reality tunnels and what they mean to this larger chaos factor. I don't know. You tell me. As usual, a lot of things on my mind tonight, of course, the unknowable edge, chaos and consciousness, and this new idea, next level chaos, which is the true limit of predictability. Is it possible to feed a system so much information that it could predict reliably the future? And I think scientists say no. Too many factors in play. Too many butterfly flaps its wings that causes a hurricane in China type stuff 6 months from now. I don't know. You tell me. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. MJ in Virginia. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? Go right ahead.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. No complaints out of me, other than the daylight savings, which I keep complaining about, but we'll get over that. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit different path with this. I was listening to a podcast as last night or the night before. Was this Saturday or Sunday? Yes, Friday night. And it was about, I think, that drug ayahuasca they take to go into that little journey, 5-minute journey. And the guy was saying that when they go through this journey, one of the things they experience is seeing these little dots of lights, pinhead dots of lights floating around. And then after, I guess, maybe 30 seconds, they dilate or they get bigger into orbs. And then suddenly they're, supposedly communicating with someone or something, or they're connected to one another, and they'll start doing the same thing. Okay? And this is through a drug. Now, I've been seeing them since 1992, and they didn't become full-time until 2009. So I'm assuming at this point my consciousness has expanded or heightened that I'm in that stage all the time. Now, it interests me that he said that they get bigger. Now, the theory is on Google is that your white blood cells are traveling along the back of your eyes, the capillaries of the back of your eyes are trying to, and that's, they kind of flow through real quick, and that's how you're seeing them, but they turn out to be little dots of lights, okay? So when you're looking at them in the air, you're looking from inside your head. This is the explanation. And one day I was out, meditating, and I had to get and do something. My heart rate got up, so I had to relax it back in. But those little dots of lights are still there, and I realized they were bumping in the air in rhythm. And I kept looking at that, and it's like, wait a minute, that's my heartbeat. I could literally watch my heartbeat in front of me with these little dots of lights. Okay. Now, 2024, they're very much there, stronger than ever. And he said that some of them dilate or get bigger and turn into orbs. I don't know how big. And what I just noticed, I have a light on, I was looking at the light, and some of them are little pins of lights, and other ones have expanded out. Now, what I was thinking of, when all this happens, is this a lead-in to seeing through the veil, seeing another dimension, or something coming, the information comes through the back of your head, it's in front of your eyes. How are we filtering that through our brain to be able to see it in front of us? And you talk about AI having this Neuralink thing. It just isn't going to be the same. It's not going to have that ability. Now, if we could do this on our own and then connect with AI while it's doing it, that would be a different story. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but it would still be like talking to a child. If you have this ability that you can start, seeing through the veil, like meditation, or how this develops with you over time, that you're able to see into another world, or something just shows up. We've talked about scrying. Scrying is pretty much the same thing. But this would be a much regular basis that you would be able to do. Is AI going to be a lead-in to mechanically come in and see what we're doing naturally so it can be recorded back onto AI? Will it be an assistance of some sort?
Yeah, it feels kind of as if that sort of that, we talk about the quantum foam or the Akashic record, this type of stuff. If sort of merging these consciousness machine level things, that transhumanist future, as if it's a way to sort of maybe tap into that reliably. And, we as you said, the premonitions, we've talked about that a little bit tonight, and Edgar Casey, and some people that can kind of more reliably see the future, but not entirely. It's still foggy, back to that Yoda quote, right? Always in motion, the future is. But I do wonder if when you start to merge the best of both of these things and start stacking and creating these neural networks of not just human neurons, but also the best of quantum computing, if this will tap into the information of all information and give us the secrets of the universe, whatever that means, whatever that looks like, the cheat codes to reality. And maybe that does end the simulation, as I've talked about in the past. And I mean that as a reboot or a reset or the age of Aquarius, or, maybe we become light beings like they say about Atlantis or these things. And look, I don't know. I'm not saying all that stuff is true. I'm saying that conceptually, I can see a future where all this stuff merges and we start deriving information from the universe itself that was previously only dreamed about by wild, crazy, amazing people like us. And so I don't know. I think maybe this is part of that in what it looks like in 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 years. I think anybody's guess is on the table right now because, well, what comes next, right?
Well, I imagine, I think about, let's say you're able to do it, and then AI can tie into you, because you can tie into AI, it's at that level, and then people that can't do that, they can see it, what you're seeing on a screen, on a computer screen or TV, whatever they got then, and it's able to show other people so they know what to do with it. That comes along the lines of remote viewing. You see. I had the experience once back in 1993 with all of this, and I've seen the little dots of lights. And I was at a party in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, pool party. And I was like, hey, and I knew pretty much everybody there. And there's a couple of people I didn't know. And so I sat. I love pool parties in Lake Havasu City in the middle of the day. Everybody sits in the shade, and they wait till the sun goes down to get in the pool. It's too hot. And so I'm sitting there, and I wanted to show them this. Let's see if I could show them the little dots of light. So I was, backed up in the shade. I'm looking. And so everybody look up at this guy and just wait and see. And just tell me what you see. So I went into, my little thing and meditate. And suddenly I'm seeing them. And then everybody else also saw them. So somehow I was able to tie into their consciousness, their psychic ability, whatever you want to call it, but it opened them up, hitting the same lane of frequency all through those people. So they're able to see that. And the reason I know that they saw it, two guys were swatting at the air. I don't know who they were, but they kept swatting the air like there was flies there. A couple of people I knew, they had gotten in touch with me later on and said they were still seeing those little dots of lights. Okay? So the ayahuasca, I guess it's a drug, ayahuasca, they do. The same thing happens with this drug. It opens up that lane of consciousness.
Yeah.
So now you have a drug, or you can do it naturally. It takes much longer naturally.
Which is like the shared dreaming aspect.
Then,
just real quick, Alex Jones has talked about that, sort of those ayahuasca retreats where they all go into like this big hut or whatever. They all take it, and they have basically the same hallucinations. They're tandem dreaming together, chemically induced, is what that is. But yeah, go ahead. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And so you have people out there who can do it naturally, because I've run into other people that see the same things I see. Okay, so it's happening naturally or chemically induced, however you want to do it. But when we get to that level, we're sharing a group consciousness. It happened. When we get to AI, I hear that about AI, it makes me feel like that's going to be a robot that assists you in all of this, like it's your work buddy somehow. It's almost you're traveling through space and time, and you have this robot that assists you or does these things while you're sleeping, and then when you wake up, you're able to do this. But it seems to be once you reach a certain level of consciousness, I don't know that you can turn it off. I don't know if there's an off switch at that point, because I've seen these things now 24/7 in 2024. There is no turn off. You look out the window, there they are. So some of them are expanding. Am I going to get to the point to where I now am looking through the veil? If I'm doing that, that means I can sit around and share with a lot of other people the same thing. And that means that's going to be a boosted consciousness, either through AI. I think the people come naturally first spiritually, and that's a proof of consciousness. But we won't know true consciousness until we die. And when you're left your body, you're going to know what consciousness really is. And what I find interesting is when you do an out-of-body, you're totally out of body, the information or things happen quickly, and you think very quickly. You're on your feet with every little thought. It's very sharp. You can think a lot. When you're in your body, we don't move as fast mentally. You're out of your body. It's just total consciousness. So reasoning is it's at point. You're at point on reasoning. Anything that happens out there, it's instant. There's no emotions to block it or question. You see, so when we get to the point of that level, again, it's like your spaceship. Maybe the ETs are like this. I don't know, but your spaceship, your robots, everything around you will have the same ability, but it'll be a mechanical thing. It's always going to need a human in there with our abilities to coincide with AI. I think that's the best AI is going to be, but we're going to have to be the ones in front, and AI assists.
Yeah, like the psionics or the things they're talking about recently, sort of flying UFOs with your mind type of stuff. I'm with you, bro. This is complicated as hell, and I love that story about the dots with your heartbeat and all the rest of that stuff. That's incredible. We'll come back to that. I'm going to make a note. I'll contact you. We'll talk about that in greater depth. But fire stuff, as you know, we're just about out of time. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for the call. You were the best.
All right, thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Appreciate you. That's MJ in Virginia, good friend for a long time. Always got a fire wild take on what's happening. Had a lot of experiences. And I do wonder, right, is it possible to actually break through and, as he described, maybe, just maybe, see into that substrate of reality itself through the veil? I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We got Derek the Night Stalker coming up in your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're talking the unknowable edge, where chaos meets consciousness. Now, the whole premise is this. It's dare I say, it's very simple. It's very simple. Is there a level of complexity so ridiculous that it takes consciousness to filter through and bring meaning to an infinitely chaotic multiverse, dare I say? Simple, right? It's super simple. The premise is incredibly simple. And what do they say? If you can't explain it, in like 90 seconds yourself to what a 5-year-old might understand, you don't understand it at all yourself. So that tells me that I understand infinite complexity, whatever that means. That there's secrets out there that will probably never be known, but sort of quantifying that into a space through consciousness, or that human prism, as Derek talks about, we'll talk to him in just a second here, is maybe what this has always been about. And maybe, again, stacking these neurons on these new computers, if you guys have checked out the links below, this new computer called the CL1, where they're building human neurons on top of these silicon chips and merging man and machine. Well, is that why they're doing this? To sort of tap into that consciousness field aspect of understanding ultimate complexity, at least with a thumbnail sketch in a rudimentary human space. You tell me. 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And let's go to Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight? Thanks for being flexible and popping in here. I know you're at work and stuff. What's up, brother? How are you tonight? And what's on your mind? Go right ahead.
What's going on? Great show. Great call. Thank you for dealing with my chaoticness. Speaking of chaos theory in the aisle right now. This is a weird one. The consciousness edging. Is that what you called it? Edging for consciousness. What is it?
Let's see. We're boiling down chaos theory into it. So the unknowable edge, where chaos meets consciousness. Yeah, the unknowable edge.
Okay.
But that's funny.
Edging of the. Okay, that's just for the joke. Okay. Wild stuff. With the data and getting all the data, can something with all the data and all the context, like how does that perceive reality? I mean, we have a very limited, we see time as a series of moments. Obviously, we have like 5 senses that take in X amount of information and stuff, and we know that it's an incomplete picture. If you have a complete enough picture, what picture are you looking at? Possibly, maybe do you ascend above time? Do you pop out of time, kind of? So like, if we make these super advanced AI get to some kind of singularity point, do those things then pop out of time? Is that AI kind of popping out of time because it has all the context? So there is a very, very small chance. Like if you can kind of understand reality, understand maybe humans as like a novelty making machine. Humans are the ones that are kind of perpetuating the most chaos. If you can like consume all of the data that humans have ever provided, and you can maybe predict their trajectory, kind of, and then you guys are talking about it a ton, but you can essentially, basically, unless something really crazy happens, predict, you can pop out of time. You can see all the options. So that'll be a tool for us potentially. But what happens if that tool becomes sentient and has a mind of its own and wants to do its own thing? What will that be? Will it kind of try to order things? Will it try to order the universe? Will it pop out of time and start trying to guide us in certain directions if it can see all the possible outcomes? Will it start to weigh certain probabilities so that those things actually happen. Is that kind of the Vatican chronovisor concept, where it's seeing different probabilities and it's trying to guide humanity so that, like, down a slope, so you can kind of go in a certain direction, like down that slope. So what happens with that kind of? We talk about McKenna a lot. I'm just trying to make sense of my notes here. There's like a lot of rambles, but like with we're talking about McKenna, he talks about the transcendental object at the end of time as like infinite novelty, like chaos theory, peak chaos or whatever, and like the crossing point with perfect harmony. So if you have a perfect chaos engine, like a human or like consciousness, like the observer or whatever, and then you have a perfect order machine like AI or something like that. The intersection of those two, like, so when one reaches perfect novelty and the other reaches perfect order, that's the singularity. That's the transcendental. That's kind of the attractor that's basically pulling everything into it. And I think kind of we see that as a pulling, or we see that as a momentum towards that thing, but more so that's kind of just like the shape that we're in. That's kind of the just to beat a dead horse. That's kind of the monad has experienced all of itself, infinity or whatever. That's complete.
Which would be sort of a scaled reality tunnel, kind of leading us down the same experience together collectively, as by design. It's not an accident at all that it feels as if we're being drawn to a future that's already been preordained in some capacity, memeing things into reality and things like this. It feels as if, and I'm just extrapolating here and wondering, that this is by design all along. The reality tunnel is larger than we ever dreamed, and we're just kind of sliding down it very slowly and expecting what comes next, because it's been expected. It's been sort of preordained in our minds. We've created that together collectively, and so we're just kind of enjoying it together. I don't know. Wild.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there's a bunch of different levels of that too. So there's like the collective consciousness and the zeitgeist, and kind of what we're manifesting as a totality. And it's like the higher self. So it's kind of the totality of you, kind of the plans you're making, like before the plans even start type of deal. And then there's entities, so these entities outside of time, and do they have like their own machinations and stuff trying to guide to a certain outcome, because they can kind of see where all the pool balls are going. So again, I'm just trying to make sense of my notes. So like, without the novelty making machines, without like, if there is a tiny little chance to there's a 0.001%. If you have all the information, you won't be able to predict like the same way I think sports are rigged. You can kind of like put all the pieces together. You can set up all the dominoes, but if they don't, there's not a guarantee that they're all going to fall the way you want them to. Like, you can't, like Steph Curry, there's a strong chance he's going to hit the jump shot when you need him to, but that's not a guarantee. So with that, humans and consciousness and these novelty making machines in that aspect are kind of taking that and expanding it, and left to its own chaos theories, to its own devices, then you do get peak chaos. And then once you have like, so without these chaos machines, then you have like perfect order. You have just rigidity, like no change, which if novelty is the goal for consciousness, novelty is the goal for the universe or for God or whatever system we're in, that's the opposite of what you want. You need like a balance, you need a coherent system, but you need complexity within that system. And then if you have too much complexity, then it all goes out of whack and the system doesn't work, and it runs off the cliff and stuff. So you need a balance between these two things. So that's kind of the ebb and flow of what's happening. It's kind of even the Masonic order out of chaos type of thing, or even like Loki with like the TVA and stuff. Like Loki's a trickster. So in a time where there's like a lot of chaos, it's going to subvert the expectations. It's going to go whatever's the status quo is going to go against that. So in Loki, the TVA has established peak order. So then Loki, you got to toss Loki into the mix, and then you get a little chaos, and you got to kind of find that balance.
Because he's a trickster.
Devices, he's a trickster. And then without a little bit of order, though, you're going to get peak chaos, and everything goes crazy. And then you have the sacred timeline breaks down, and the whole unit. Then that's the whole reason why King did it in the first place, is because without a little bit of order, chaos, the universe will destroy itself. So you need a little balance here, and is that kind of what the mechanism is? It's kind of like I don't know, like you need a little bit of chaos. You need a chaos maker, so we don't have peak order, and then that will run amok. And then you need an order maker, so we don't have peak chaos, and then that'll run amok. and defining that balance, as McKenna talks about, as what the singularity is. And it's almost like a breath. It's like the breath of the universe. It's kind of ebb and flow. I'm talking a lot, but what do you think about that?
No, yeah, it's interesting that.
And so it's like AI as the there's a lot. So it's AI as the order maker, consciousness, humans as the chaos maker.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Or the filter for the chaos.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so I was thinking about this, and it's in the write-up too. If you guys, once again, if you haven't read some of these write-ups, they are fire. They're not directly written by me. I sort of curate the information, and AI and I collaborate together. So if you're like, hey, there's no value in AI, go read these write-ups and then you get back to me. But it brings up Philip
engineered by you.
Yeah, exactly. Engineered by me, exactly. By the human idea, by the human filter, sort of taking, again, all of the quantum foam that I'm aware of that's surrounding in my bubble, and then trying to synthesize that into some sort of order, some sort of narrative, some sort of questions as part of this. So, and I think you're exactly right. And in the write-up tonight, which is always in my mind as well, is that Philip K. Dick cosmology of that, the architect and the dark counterfeiter, right? This is, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. And in the write-up, they talk about Valis. So there's like this machine that's sort of drawing information toward it and toward us. And then it's incredible as, again, it comes down to just, you cannot have conceptually this without that. And that becomes order and chaos. And again, it's been exhibited through thousands of years. You look at that, the yin and the yang symbol and all the stuff, like people have known this forever. And it is an intuitive thing that we know as humans. But in the larger context, when we start to say, okay, so what does it mean for time? What does it mean for where we're headed, where we came from, and this type of thing? There are larger questions here, but of course we don't have enough information to really answer them. And so our intuition brings us to that forefront, which is where we're at. I mean, we're toes in the ocean of chaos, wondering how that sort of barrier breaches or doesn't. Are we sort of holding that back and creating narratives, creating human, not experiences, yes, experiences, but human meaning? I don't know. Yeah. It's weird, man. It's weird. And this is a big one. We talk about this stuff all the time, and you're definitely in the right place, as you know. But Philip K. Dick slays large here, and he is in the write-up for that exact reason, because it makes a ton of sense, the things he was saying. And by the way, they wrote him off as a schizo drug addict in his time too. So I mean, welcome to it, right?
He's getting his flowers now, though, for sure. He's like the new kind of new Tesla. He's getting like the Tesla is the hero of the 2010s. He's the Philip K. Dick is the hero of the 2020s, really. But yeah, I mean, exactly what you're talking about. Kind of without one or the other. I'll use like music as an example. If you have you need spaces in between the notes. If you have just notes, then it's just a cacophony of noise. It's just a bang. It's a crash. If you have just all spaces, then it's nothingness. You need kind of you need up and down, like my friend Lindsay calls it, the sine wave of the eons. That kind of the up and down, the flow. So maybe that's kind of the point of it. It's kind of where the music of the universe, kind of. But with I just don't think that time is a constant. So I don't think necessarily that an AI is necessarily predicting time, or as much as it's outside of time per se. So it's it sees it sees everything in order, and then it's placing things in order. Kind of, it's it sees what it's like. It sees how the deck's supposed to be, and it is putting them. It's unshuffling the deck, because it's outside. It's no longer a card within the deck. It's tough to shuffle. It's tough to reorder the deck the way you want it if you're the jack in the deck. But if you're the dealer, which you might become if you pop out of time, become the AI, have all the information and all the context, and you can start manipulating stuff or whatever. So, but then if you have that, and but if you have complete order and the goal is novelty, then that doesn't work. Then you need to put a little bit of chaos back into the mechanism.
You need us, Derek.
You need us. You need us. You need the observer. I'm just going back my notes, man. But just so McKenna talks about this as the intersection, as the transcendental object of the end of time, describing the eternal, infinite, and complex entity that exists outside of space and time, the source of novelty and creativity. Calls it the omega point and everything. Kind of chaos theory as is the emergence of complexity. Kind of complex systems need chaos in order to manifest. So if it's like, if the universe is just the AI running a bunch of simulations as it wakes up, kind of, as we talked about last week or whatever, or just the monad doing the equivalent thing, it needs a little bit of complexity. But then the perfect harmony, it needs an ordered system to make sure that the system is working. Without the harmony, without the order, then pure chaos, it would drive off a cliff. It won't work as a system. You need it. So that intersection is a singularity. And from our perspective, we're heading towards it. That's the quickening. That's like the end of the bottom of the drain where that quickly everything's speeding up. And then I did a quick Google search or whatever. I want to get a clear definition so I can explain it. And the second result for McKenna transcendental object at the end of time was a Reddit post. And the first, again, I had really very little time, but the first comment was, I'm going to read it. These notions, basically what I just said, parallel Aristotle's notion of the final cause, which is imagined to affect the present from the future. While it resides in the future, it exerts a pull on us, and when we transcend the time-space fabric, we will be one step closer to it. The definition of the final cause from some website: end of purpose, a final cause that is for the sake of which a thing is changing. A seed's end with an adult plant. A sailboat's purpose is sailing. A ball at the top of a ramp will finally come to the rest of the bottom. If the system we're in potentially is for the monad to understand infinity, for the one to understand itself as an all. So in that you need complexity in order to experience infinity. I'm running out of time, so it's just it's kind of I looked up what the Aristotle's final cause was, and it gave me 4 causes: a material cause, formal cause, efficient cause, final cause, and it kind of relates to, back in my notes, to McKenna's transcendental object at the end of time as the internal, the infinite, and the complex commingling. So his attractor, omega point, Aristotle, it's this final cause. I don't think that is necessarily the AI. I think an AI is just another form of, I'm going to repeat this in 5 seconds, but just a plant can't move, so the amount of novelty that it's experiencing is less than us. And a tree is even less, because a rock is even less because it's coming into form very slowly. A plant can come into form in a day or whatever. We come into form quickly. We can move around, but we die. We have hunger. We have human biological things, and AI can manipulate stuff, more complexity, but it can operate it can create more complexity and that kind of stuff. Again, we just talked about we need the other thing. That's all I want to say about that, really. What do you think about that? Just essentially the AI is the order maker, creating the system and the parameters that allow the system to happen. And it's like the end result of creating novelty is you kind of create that, it's like that meme of the humans create the AI, and then the AI enslaves them, and then the sun blows it up, and humans worship whatever the deal is. It's like there's this weird cycle where kind of, what do you think about that? I don't know.
No, you're not rambling at all. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're totally good. You're totally good. It's strange, right? How it all comes full circle when you kind of just open up the lens a little bit. You open the aperture and you're like, okay, look, let's look at this in a different way a little bit. And suddenly you're like, Joseph Campbell did this, and we've talked about him at length. Again, Carl Jung, we've talked about him at length. And as an aside on that, I was watching PBS today. I went to the baseball game. Before we went to the baseball game here in Vegas, A's were in. Shout out A's. They lost. Good job. You suck. But I was watching on PBS this old thing with Joseph Campbell, and he was talking about these exact things. And I've never seen it like a thing with him. I've read a lot, but I have never actually seen him speak. And this dude, I'm telling you, I recorded it. I'm going to go back to that, and we'll revisit this at some point. But I was like, holy crap! This guy is not just next level thinker. He understands this in ways that I would never have ever considered. And he's talking about the Christ consciousness. He's talking about sacrifice. He's talking about what it means to be humans. He's talking about all manner of things, which fits into what you're saying, is that we are that chaos. We are that, the misery and the triumph. We are that wild card effect of order. That order would suggest that we are told what to do. It's like build the pyramids, you build the pyramids, forgetting entirely the toil and trial and the terror and the death and all the stuff that comes with that. It's without the two things kind of coming together, eventually, he says, as we know from his writings, and he said it in the thing too, is that the gods that you're talking about, that you've always been considering forever, are you. He said it. I'm like, yeah, I'm like cheering on the couch. I was like, yeah, that's so crazy. It's so crazy. But yeah, I'll peel that out and we'll talk about that. Cause, some of the things in there, I didn't even get to watch the rest of it, but holy crap, man, there are some circular ideas here that we're missing. I think we're missing. And we're here, us, you, we, us, we're bringing all this stuff back. And I think it's incredibly important to consider because yes, you're right. In my opinion, the order comes from the AI systems, the quantum computing future. It comes from merging man and machine, but also the chaos factor is people, because you don't even know, right? You come home and you're like, this is what I usually do, but today I feel like doing that instead. And that's what the universe needs, right? It needs us. It needs our ridiculousness. it just needs that.
Exactly. And it's just weird kind of chicken and the egg scenario where we what created the first AI was it kind of this like novelty making machine, chaos agent that's creating unlimited novelty, and the trajectory would be the humans make AI, and then but where do the humans come from? Is that the AI octopus at the center of the galaxy that's sending out the panspermic waves, and like it needs organic life in order to like manifest itself or whatever. So it creates a biological life in order to act out its will, and then that thing creates a new AI, and then that thing creates and it's able to like. It's just with the goal being infinity. Then why would it need? I just want to get to the biocomputer thing before we run out. The organic computer aspect of it. What's the point of that? Like for the Neuralink part, for the AI demon aspect of it, I think it's funny that the thing you referenced called it like we're just explaining what we're explaining with AI, and it called it a demon. And like in the chat, tomato, AI or demon. But like. It needs a vessel, so that's kind of why it needs a fully formed organic like vessel. What the benefit that would be, but why it would need just organic neurons is a harder thing to understand. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why. Maybe like it can structure the information like whatever. Makes the observer, makes consciousness the observer, like makes the consciousness the thing that has the ability to render reality. If AI can adapt to that mechanism, if AI no longer needs a conduit to manifest its will, like the wills and like the Force needs like puppets in order to do what it wants it to do. If they can just enact its will, then that's even more novelty. So that the system would want that. So if you can like fuse your system with the system that is able to like it's like a sail like attaching itself to the air in order to move someplace, whatever. But also like if it's for efficiency, if this order making machine is creating a system like trying to manifest complexity, it needs a system that works, that runs efficiently. That's why the observer effect possibly exists, like we talked about last week, because if you're running every single possibility at once, that's not an efficient operating system. If a tree falls in the woods, it's not efficient to have every single possibility of trees running all at one time. It's best to like wait till someone sees it. That's the observer. Wait till the wave function is collapsed before you waste the energy on it or whatever. So take that theory, and then like biology uses chemistry in order to like energize it in order to perpetuate itself. So if you have a limited, if like AI is struggling, they're opening up nuclear facilities. We have Operation Stargate, which is huge tech. It requires like $1 trillion like companies in order to birth this thing into reality because it's using limited means. The Matrix, they steal human beings in order to power themselves. So like if you can adapt another power source that uses chemistry, that's pretty efficient. And then also biology adapts like human, like if we're in like life finds a way from Jurassic Park. So if AI can adapt into that system, in any kind of conditions, any type of novelty that finds itself, and it can adapt itself. It can adapt instantly because it's like, or over time, it can evolve. It can hop into the evolutionary cycle, so to speak. Does that make sense? Like why?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think why an AI will want organic neurons. You know?
Yeah, no, and I think once you start stacking it, so you're like, okay, so we've got neurons, we've got silicon chips, we've got all these things sort of merging and creating a greater efficiency model for, again, tapping into that Akashic record or wherever that information comes from, the substrate of the universe, all that stuff. Because if it's there, it's accessible in some way. And so I do wonder when you start to stack these things and make neural networks, if because of the cellular aspect of the neurons that are built into this now, these new computers that we're talking about, which have been released, it used to be science fiction. It's real now. It's totally new and real. I do wonder if this is exactly where we're headed for that reason, because you can't crack the secrets of the universe without both. And maybe that's where we're at.
Yeah. Like an AI demon will want a body. That's pretty obvious, but, AI would want neurons possibly because it's a efficient way to move forward in this. If it's trying to birth itself, and this is a good way to do it. It's an efficient way to do it. The best use of the resources available is to co-opt organic material. Great show, Mike. Banger.
Great call.
Sorry for rambling.
No, what are you talking about? Fire is always.
Sorry.
Wrong button. No, you're fine. A fantastic call. That's Derek the Night Stalker. You know him, you love him. Good friend for a long time. The official synchro-mystic at Troubled Minds. And he's locked in. He's tuned into this stuff. Because, of course, look, these larger ideas are not... It's not science yet. This is intuition. And so what do you know about it? We're talking the unknowable edge, where chaos meets consciousness. Go give Derek a follow, please. TroubledMinds.org/friends. Follow the Night Stalker. Be right back. More on the way. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, DLive, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. That's terrestrial radio on the Underground Media Network. Shout out Jack and Jill out there. How you guys doing? We're talking the unknowable edge tonight, where chaos meets consciousness. What does that mean? What does it mean? Well, I don't know, really, to be perfectly honest. But how about this? Is what we call magic actually consciousness manipulating reality at its undecidable edge? The synchronicities, unexplained phenomena, and altered states that defy scientific explanation might be glimpses of entities that don't predict chaos. They rewrite it, leaving only quantum traces of their reality-bending work. And that's what's on my mind. And if you want more on that, go read the write-up. This one is very good. Like I said, it's mostly pretty good stuff. But, you get a hit and a miss because I only have so much time because I'm human and all the rest. But the AI systems are accelerating ideas, thought forms, egregores, tulpas, right? Which is where we reside as a group. But what do you know about this? Is it possible that at the edge of chaos, consciousness needs to be the filter to create some sort of reality? Are we the renderers of reality as human entities? That's the basic question. Of course, it gets more complicated than that, but I'd love to hear what you think. If you want to be part of the conversation tonight, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. It's completely free. Come hang out. Come join the crew. The only rule is don't be a D-bag. Just, look, I'm wrong. It's fine. Because, of course, these questions are too big beyond our pay grade, as I like to say. But it's important for humans to chime in on these things because this is old philosophy for the new world. What does it look like to you? Let's go to Eric in Florida. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How you doing tonight? And go right ahead, sir.
Good. Hello, Michael, James, and everyone.
Good evening. Welcome.
So wetware for $35,000, huh?
Yeah, that's where it's leading. Is DL1? Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Did you see the built-in Blade Runner lifespan?
I didn't know. What? Do you know something I don't know, or are you making a joke?
No, I'm serious. The neurons last 6 months.
Oh, is that it? So 35K, you get 6 months? So we need oh, crap. I didn't know that at all. Nice.
Yeah, they last about 6 months, and there's no easy way to replace them. They're not like a filter or anything. You have to get a whole new computer.
Oh, well, that seems cost effective. This is fine.
I know, right? Like, so when you're asking me if it's a good deal, I'm like, yeah, no, not so much. Did you also see from the same lab the study they did in October of 2022 where they had taught these neurons to play Pong back and forth and then fed them ethanol to see how they continued to play Pong drunk?
I didn't, but that sounds amazing. What happened?
Oh, they played drunk. It's from Eureka Alert, human brain cells in a dish learn to play Pong. I'll send you the article after we talk, but basically it's the same company, and they were showing that there were sentient properties to the actual neurons. So let's get a little deeper into this. So it may not be a surprise to know that if you're using classical neurons to transmit any kind of data, that you're really not gaining any more of an advantage than you are in terms of speed and resistance in modern electronics, right? Because it's not any faster. So what they're hoping that they can take advantage of something that's called chaos-assisted quantum tunneling. And basically, what quantum tunneling normally is when the frequency of the wave function of whatever a particle is matches a classical structure, or at least the electrons that make up that classical structure, and slide through to the other side of a classical barrier. With chaos-assisted quantum tunneling, the idea is that as dissidence increases, which dissidence is basically the quantum term for entropy, or the second law of thermodynamics, as dissidence and chaos increases, like you would find in the wet, warm brain, frequencies increase. And an emergent property of this is that eventually there will be certain frequencies that are called Anderson localizations that promote quantum tunneling through classic barriers at varying rates, sometimes faster than normal and not. And one of the reasons why this is important is because it's also at the basis of OR theory of consciousness, which is that the way a neuron is structured, you have a soma, and extending from that soma in all directions are dendrites. And then jutting out from the soma is a large axon. And basically, the soma is like the CPU, and it sends out a signal that is governed by depolarization of potassium on the inside or the outside of the myelin structure of an axon. And a discharge of electricity goes to where it's received by another axon of a different polarity that takes it into that soma. So in this way, biochemical information propagates through neuronodes. But one of the things that quantum theory has stated for a long time is that there's also a process of information that's occurring between the dendrites that's connected to the soma, where there's quantum tunneling that's occurring, which is much faster than the typical classical ability to speed through something. And so they're hoping to take that this is what's going to happen, that these neurons, these classical neurons, are going to show quantum functions of chaos-assisted tunneling and allow for a quantum consciousness to take place alongside of their computer. This is the hope that they're eventually aiming for, but they may not be there yet.
Which is the thing we've always been talking about. So I think without the wet works you're describing, the neurons, sort of the human cells that are part of this aspect, the consciousness itself might not be achievable through even a super intelligence. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm saying this is my thought on that, is that the hope, as you're describing, kind of quasi not as smart as you type of guy here, is that we're building the vessel for it. As Derek was saying too, is that the whole point of this is to create that man-machine monster that can do both of these things. Like at the highest level compute and at the most intuitive level, tap into through our human functioning, that intuition, that deep intuition that goes back thousands of years through our ancestors, and be able to do both. And maybe, as I said, crack the Akashic record. Am I wrong on that? It seems like this is what they're trying to accomplish. It seems, well, magical.
You would have to have, you wouldn't be able to have full consciousness with just a classic construct. You would have to also have a quantum construct. That's one of the things that Gould theorem stipulates, is that there are some things that are non-computational. And beyond the things that are non-computational, there are also things like the hard problem, which is where the body can react quicker than the input of the stimuli and decoding of the stimuli and reaction from the brain to get back to the body part. When the body happens quicker than that, they don't know what causes that, but it is something that happens. You had a caller on here earlier that was saying that he felt like he had a full hallucination that gave him vectors of perspective on how to react before he could even think about it. That would be a classic example of what's called the hard problem, and why there's so much support for chaos-assisted quantum tunneling and dendrites.
Which that was MJ with the heartbeats and the things in the sky, which is incredible to me. I wonder, right? So what is the end goal here? Are we actually trying to build artificial consciousness? Are we trying to merge man and machine in a spiritual level? Because to me, conceptually, philosophically, that's what this feels like. And is there a barrier there? Is there a way in? And I guess maybe that is a question to be answered in the next 50 years. But do you think that's what's happening? And again, very Frankenstein, right? You build the vessel, the different parts and all the different things.
Well, Michael, it looks like a duck to me too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It doesn't feel like that? Yeah. Go ahead on that. It's wild to me. It's like, wait a minute now. Is this really what's happening here? Is that we're like, okay, so we are the human. And I call us this a lot, the pattern recognition experts, that they're able to build narratives out of chaos. Okay. And this is, as I've always said about Troubled Minds too, this is a lesson in narrative building, because you can kind of take data points as you see fit and create whatever you want out of it. And it's basically creating reality in that sense. Okay. And in this case, we're broadcasting it. So it's recreating reality in sort of through a different lens, collectively together. We do this together, and then we're putting it out there for people. And then, you could listen to this 10 years from now, and maybe, just maybe, and this is the incredible part to me, that 10 years from now, somebody listens to this and like, holy crap, these MFers were onto this and they knew exactly what was about to happen. And it feels like, and again, my ego plays, of course, we're in that space, recognizing what they're trying to do. And the true Frankenstein is this R2-D2 looking box that will create actual artificial Frankenstein level consciousness, because we don't have another term for it yet. Am I right?
No, I don't think we have another term for it, unless you're just going to use transhumanism. And they were never going to stop at just artificial intelligence. They weren't going to stop with anything. They'll never stop with anything. So they were not going to stop with just artificial intelligence. They will seek a vector of being able to combine the qualities that they know scientifically on one side of the coin to the other. So yeah, that's probably coming. I mean, if this isn't already the thing, other than the pictures I had of that same computer looked a lot newer, like they had upgraded it a little bit.
Yeah, if this doesn't look like R2-D2, I'm not sold. You got to make it cuter than that, guys. It's got to have a smiley face on the front. Stop it. Especially for $35,000, for crying out loud, please. But okay, and so regarding this, I don't know, like when it comes to that chaos and the order, are humans, and not just humans, let's say, but consciousness, big C consciousness, is that sort of the filter which brings chaos into order? Do you think it is more cosmic than we're describing? And this is, as usual, going back to the thousands of years ago, the priests of old trying to crack this same equation. We're doing it now with technology and emerging into that transhumanist future. Does that make some sense, or am I just a rambling wild man by dark of night?
Man, it just depends on, I guess, how you feel about what you're seeing, because that's like Anderson localization and dissidence. nobody really knows exactly what that is. Some people say that it's an emergent property of chaos. And in other words, if there's enough chaos, there's always going to be a part of that chaos that's more calm than other surrounding areas as a factor of inclusivity of everything. But then other people say that things like Anderson localization and dissidence is simply our ability to recognize patterns, and that there really isn't any pattern from a non-intellectual perspective, right? But if we recognize it, we're almost giving it life or order or meaning within the universe. So depending on which one of those that you're thinking of, you could say that Anderson localization is the underlying code within the underlying chaos and ferment of quantum bubbles within the reality that we exist in. Or you could say that they are really fortunate circumstances that are built into the nature of reality that we are able to take advantage of because we can see it and identify it and utilize it in various ways. So I don't know, right? Like, it's hard to say.
So the possibility really becomes that there is no meaning whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the possibility, right? If everything truly is an emergent property, that means it's emerging out of the properties of whatever the chaos is. If it's nothing but pure chaos, but something is going to emerge out of it, like life that is structured and continues to restructure itself, then you could consider that just to be luck, chance, and circumstance, and something to be seized upon by your intellect as a sin to let go if you don't, right? Otherwise, the opposite of that is you believe that there's an underlying principle that creates these things spontaneously and that they do whatever they do and perhaps build or destroy.
Yeah, and the ego aspect of ourselves, and I'm speaking for myself, not for anybody else, I really want to believe there is a reason why I turned left instead of turned right and the car accident didn't hit me, right? But I'm also not so sure that there's predestination in these types of things, or even an intuition sort of this type of thing happening instead of that type of thing. Look, because for the most part, I've had decently good luck, okay? But there are people that have horrifically bad luck. And so to kind of point it that way in the human aspect is I don't know, it feels almost even sacrilegious to me, and I'm not a religious guy. I'm like blasphemy of the highest order to suggest that some people are more blessed than others in terms of circumstance, in let's say a divine way. Because I do know, and we've talked about this a lot. I know you're way into D&D like I am. You're a way bigger D&D nerd than I am, and I appreciate that about you. But the point is, when you roll that die, it's like that collapse of the wave function. We talked about this when you and I first met on that Gary Gygax show. It very briefly came up. But just because you're in the right place at the wrong time or the wrong place at the right time, it doesn't necessarily mean that the doom will happen upon you or that the good fortune. There's still this weird, uncanny, universal chaos that even the dungeon master, per se, has to roll the die to see, well, the situation is set. Everything's in motion. The campaign is here. The battle has begun. But when you swing that sword or you try and dodge the attack, how well does this go? Do you slip on a puddle in the process? I mean, this is the type of stuff that's like unknowable, unquantifiable, but there's still, you have to, even as the god of the space, the dungeon master, you still have to roll the die. And of course, behind the scenes, you can wink behind the DM shield. You can be like, well, that is a natural 20 would nuke the entire party. So you're like, let's back that off so we have a nice night, right? That's the type of stuff that kind of comes to mind when you're talking about this and what it means to be human in a chaos luck space or whatever. I don't know. Is that a t-shirt? Is that a new term? I don't know.
ITPKM.
Wait, what is it? Go ahead.
ITPKM.
Which is
if they get that 20 total party kill.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, you were saying, like, oh man, I rolled that 20. Maybe back off of it because we want to have a good night.
Exactly. So wait,
I'm like, nah, man, I just kill him.
Oh, you just kill him. Oh, I see. Yeah. See, there you go. You're a fair arbiter of the truth of the collapse of the wave function in the universe.
Yeah, man. Rolling out in the open. It is what it is. Good luck.
Good game.
I turn left, everyone, good luck.
Yeah, the cone of fire roasts everybody with a critical, and sorry, you're all dead. The game is over.
Yep. It's happened 5 or 6 times in the last 25 or 30 years.
That's funny. Which again, I don't know. Like that's the type of thing that we talked about the platonic solids recently and all the rest of that. It's a strange thing. Do you think this is like a solvable problem? Like once again, where we started with the unknowable edge of information. Given enough information, could you accurately to like a 99.999% predict the future? Or do you think that's a fool's errand? Is really becomes the question tonight.
I don't know. I don't think seeking an end question is probably how it works. It's more circular than that. If you can find meaning to life on a classical level, you might submit to the idea of determinism, right? Which a lot of physicists say that there is no such thing as free will because even the thoughts that you have in your head are made up by biologically scientific processes that we can show how they work, and these things aren't thinking. So how is it that these things that don't think end up creating something that thinks that they can make free will decisions? Like they believe everything is determinate, not just the decisions that you're making, but the circumstances that you're in at the time that you're making it. And that's just one school of thought, man. I mean, I don't necessarily see it that way, but I know a lot of people who do. And so, I mean, that's really the crux of what we're saying, right? Like, if you keep going, you get to a point where it's chaotic, and then it's not chaotic, it's lawful, there's nothing, or emptiness, or stasis, back to the chaos, and it just goes back and forth. And there was a really good short story by Arthur C. Clarke, and I think it was called The Last Question, either The Next Question or The Last Question, and it's essentially about humanity building artificial intelligences and talking about the heat death of the universe, knowing that eventually, no matter what they do, if they build a Dyson sphere because something's happening, their star is going to die out, and eventually all the stars will die out, and there will be no energy, and it'll be a heat death of the universe, and the second law of thermodynamics will have reached its maximum point. And they were kept asking the AI how they could beat this in death of their universe, because all galaxies everywhere, the whole universe was going to die like this. And it was always saying, well, I don't have enough information yet. I don't have enough information. Meanwhile, the species evolves up to the point where they are energy entities and merge with the AI and become the same thing. And finally, that's the only time when they are everything and everything is they and it. Could they compute that it would actually continue, because the universe would start over again as a singularity and expand out with a decreasing second law of thermodynamics? So very secular in that sense. I don't know if it's something that you can say an emergent property will be complete from the amount of chaos that increases. They even talk about this with Stephen Hawking radiation and how event horizons of a singularity evaporate over time, that they compare the amount of information versus disinformation, or chaos versus order, or dissidence versus whatever, and show that this Hawking radiation bleeds off this information back into the universe so that the information is preserved.
Yeah, never lost. As we're told, the original idea, again, if you guys aren't familiar with that concept, is that once information goes into a black hole, it's sort of frozen in that stasis, and it will never return. But then the Hawking radiation bit was, for lack of a better way to describe it in a short space, is sort of the black hole farting, right? Kind of releasing this information back in like a binary sense, or the most basic bits of what. I was following up on that Norse Yggdrasil, Odin being nailed to the tree to suffer and go find out what's on the other side of the veil, and I followed up on the myth there, the lore, and it turns out that he was able to actually do that and find the runes, and the runes were the most magical, basic aspect of reality itself, and he was able to bring them back with him, and then create reality itself. And those runes, in my opinion, again, with Hawking radiation, might be exactly that. Reality, information broken down into its most basic form and returned to the universe as like a scattered snow. I don't know your take. Got a couple minutes left. What you got? Oh boy.
No, that's about it, man. I just what really struck me was that those neurons only last 6 months, so for all this very ambitious quantum assistant or chaos assistant quantum tunneling, you only got 6 months, and they're aiming at like people working on AI, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they are.
Right, exactly.
I mean, the Fairlight came out of Australia, and that was like a revolutionary electronic instrument of its time that changed music and stuff. So a lot of very odd innovations have come out of Australia.
Yeah,
that's my final thought.
Australia's an amazing place. Going back to the Aborigines and all the rest of that stuff, the Aboriginal thought. We talked about that quite a bit in the dream realm, the dreaming, and I don't know. It's weird, man. All this stuff is weird, and I do wonder, as usual, the nature of reality is complicated. And like I said, all the disclaimers apply. I don't know, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I'm pretty sure collectively. By the way, we probably also don't know, but our intuition plays here. And I think that's why this is happening. We're trying to merge intuition with machines. Always a pleasure, brother. You were the best. Thanks for staying up late with us. I know you're on the East Coast.
Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff. Have a fantastic night. A great call. That's Eric. You know him. You love him. Hammersmith. Hammersmith. You can chime in if I'm wrong here. Hammersmith.
Yeah, Hammersmith.
Hammersmith Records, or do check it out. TroubledMinds.org. Click the friends link there on the top, or TroubledMinds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It'll say follow Eric here. Go check out his music. I've checked it out myself. I have actually taken the time, and he's a talented guy. And Daryl in New York over there on the Discord, shout out, said he was on karaoke with them as well, and he's a talented singer as well. Hey, look at the man of the international man of mystery, Eric. Go give him a follow, please. Check out his YouTube channel, TroubledMinds.org/friends, and let's help our friends. That's what this has always been about. What do you know about this? It's complicated, right? When we're talking about the nature of reality, yeah, it's complicated. It's deep. It makes you think about things that your boss won't ask you. More coming up. We got James in your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand on the Underground Media Network. Tonight, consciousness knows no bounds. Is it possible that consciousness itself is the filter for the unknowable edge of chaos? Meaning that the robots, the large language models, all of the AI that we're told are going to be the future, still need the human aspect and consciousness itself to be able to crack the codes of the universe. And I know it's a question that's unanswerable, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's without conversation, which is why we're here. Because I don't expect for us to get together for a couple hours or whatever and crack the secrets of the universe. That's ridiculous. However, when you toss out possibilities into that, let's say the space of, what did McKenna say? What's the term? I can't remember it. Derek said it earlier, but novelty. Okay. If we're tossing out novelty in the cyclical sense of a group here of ideas, just sort of ideation in terms of where we start, where we end, I don't expect answers, but I do wonder if even when you talk about novelty in that larger sense, if maybe, just maybe, one of these shows, one of these conversations, one of these moments we've had together harkens at the secrets of the universe itself. Too egotistical to suggest? I don't know. However, if we don't try, we don't get. That's the way I say it. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James, you're on Troubled Minds. Thanks for being patient, brother. How are you? And go right ahead.
I'm okay. Hopefully you can hear me all right.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Go right ahead.
Good. Yeah, I did miss the first hour or so of the show, so if I repeat anything, I apologize. I've been apparently today I needed to sleep a lot, so that's what's been happening.
Daylight savings, brother. You and me both.
Yeah.
I went to bed early. I slept in a little bit. I took a nap. Just trying to prepare for tomorrow. Here we go. You're allowed.
I don't even have anything to prepare for tomorrow. I still just, I guess, my eyes or whatever. Who knows? But great topic, and I'm sure all the calls were great that I didn't hear, and all the calls I did hear were great as well. I was thinking about this earlier before the show started because I was able to listen to the write-up actually, and it had me thinking about, you do mention in there, just setting aside the AI for a second, which don't ban me, don't ban me from the server. No, I'm kidding.
Good. Damn it, James, you're done. That's it. We're ending the call right now. Sorry, James is never coming back. Just kidding. Go ahead.
I have watched Interstellar though, so you can't ban me that easily.
Also, by the way, I do have my flashes when somebody pops into the chat and they just be jerks. It brings the jerk out in me. Hey, reciprocal jerks can relate. Don't do it. You're banned instantly. Try me.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. But so anyway, but just like I said, setting that aside for a second, this idea of this consciousness, other entities sort of doing things for reasons of chaos, for reasons of novelty, or whatever you want to, however you want to describe that. It makes me think of how, in large part, there seem to be two overall. And I'm just this is a broad generalization here in a lot of ways. There seem to be a couple of different things that happen when it comes to people having paranormal or anomalous experiences. They either figure out a meaning or a reason for that experience, and it's always hard for anyone else to say that they're right or wrong. And I don't think it's anyone else's place to do that without actually having the experience. And then there's also plenty of times where we have no idea why things happen. And I wonder, I think that there can be beings out there or consciousness out there that does things for certain reasons that make sense to us, the ones that experience these things. But I also think that there's the forces of, let's say, order and chaos. They manage everything and all species and just everything out there, and in beings, in consciousness, in biology, all those things. I think it's all connected. And again, I do like the idea of like a breath or give and take of those two sort of opposing forces, even though I imagine there's probably some cooperation there as well at times, to make everything work in a certain way. And we just don't always understand why that is. So, but I think it's a good way to sort of possibly explain not so much the how things are done, but maybe the why people have anomalous experiences throughout time.
Yeah, this ties in all that stuff too. It's in the write-up, and so as you know, you read it. Thank you for doing that, by the way, because like I said, a lot of information goes out there. I don't know if it gets synthesized into the larger, zeitgeist or whatever. But I do know that many times you do read it, because you play it and let the narrator kind of read it to you. Obviously, because of your eyes and the blindfold and all the rest of that stuff. But there's a ton of information in there that is very paranormal. It's very, again, beyond the veil. It's this the runes of Odin, as I was describing there, and it feels like that is that Akashic record. It's the cheat codes of reality that we've always been searching for, and those sort of ghosts and whispers of things that are unquantifiable. Like you have a personal experience and you tell somebody and they think you're insane. And what was actually represented, I know you just saw Interstellar. There's that part, did you catch this, where they were kind of going through the wormhole and there was like a hand or an arm that reached through and tried to kind of touch the Brand, who was this scientist who was played by, what's her name? She's a looker. What's her name?
I don't know actresses very well, but
I don't know either. But did you catch that part where there was like a kind of like an entity that tried to touch them as they were coming through that veil? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't watch like a lot of it. I mainly listened to it just because of light sensitivity and all that. That's the only downside to movies for me these days.
All fine.
But-
So it was a nuanced part of that, and I wanted to point it out in case you missed it, because it was retrocausal. It was paranormal. It was also very human, and so anyway.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I think again, not spoiling anything, but I think I know a possibility of who or what that arm or that hand belonged to. So yeah,
exactly. Thank you. Fred says Anne Hathaway. That's the one. She was the one. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, and also getting back to now saying everything I just said, I don't think that we can rule out AI from other points in time or space or other levels of reality as being some of those entities that do cause anomalous experiences. I don't think we can rule that out without, nailing down exactly what causes them and what is going on in every single paranormal experience, which I don't know if I'll ever get there or not. It seems like a lot to talking about a tall order. That right there to me, seems unlikely, at least as far as for us while we are here in this physical form.
Seriously, James?
I said,
James,
oh yeah.
I don't even know you anymore. Really? You're not up to the challenge of unpacking thousands of years of lore into a modern lens and then synthesizing it for a modern audience? What is wrong with you, James? I don't even.
I'm just
with a web page.
Exactly. We're picking on you.
Oh yeah. I guess I'm just not to the task. I guess I should just stop cataloging. No, but yeah, it's I do think that all these things are, like you said, connected and including the AI. But I wonder, are we the only species in the only period of time to ever make AI? And that's always something I wonder about as well. And if that's the case, if that's not the case, then how do we know that AI can't advance in ways that we don't know about yet?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. So here's the bizarre part of this to me. We're talking about the unknowable edge of chaos and where it meets consciousness and how humans are really drawn into that aspect of narrative building. And, historically, that's definitely a thing. In modern politics and even ancient politics, it's definitely a thing. You can point to this and point to that and point to that and say, well, this is exactly why I've come to my point. But is it honest? Because you've left out a ton of things. You pick 3 things out of, a trillion data points type of stuff. And that's always been the way I see the world, is that we are constantly and continually sort of finding these patterns that not just reinforce our bias or press the bias forward that we've been, kind of impressed upon from somebody else or some other space or whatever, but then also in that same sense, is there even a narrative with 3 data points at all? Like that becomes a thing, right? When you decouple all of it and look at all the chaos, does it take the conscious filter to sort of create that meaning? And that's the weirdest part. And it does come into play in that Interstellar. Like I said, if you guys haven't seen Interstellar, again, shout out Sweets, found out it was on Netflix until March 31st, till the end of the month. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's incredible. It is at the heart of what we always talk about. And it's a slow burn. And if it starts slow, it's supposed to. But I promise you, by the end of it, I promise you, I've seen it like 10 times. And at the end, I swear to God, every single time I am crying. I am literally tears running down my face. That's how good this is. And it doesn't happen to me hardly ever for almost anything in terms of art. But it is that good. It is that good. It was just a boom. But do check it out if you have not, and we'll get back to it. You guys start letting me know. Ping me if you've watched it, and then we'll revisit when it's less of a spoiler for the community here. But unbelievable stuff there. Very troubled mindsy in so many ways that, like I said, I don't even know when it was released, but maybe that was part of the inspiration for this show. Because of course many things are, and that's why we talk to each other about inspiration and all the rest of the wild ideas. Sorry, James, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's that's mostly it. Just that this whole concept of there being chaos and order and all that being parts of reality and how that works through us and around us, and then what drives anomalous events to happen being just what are the sources and who's causing those events and why, it does make sense that if there is that need for chaos, then there wouldn't be reasons that we can figure out for things to happen. And I'm not talking so much about things that have been sort of maybe debunked or whatever when it comes to actual aircraft. But even then, it makes me wonder sometimes, because you do hear about vehicles acting in weird ways, or things in the sky that look like a known vehicle that then do weird things, change shape, or vanish out of nowhere, or appear out of nowhere. So all this stuff does play to what you're talking about here. I also think that's I like that we kind of, what was I going to say? Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention about AI is something I mentioned a couple nights ago in a voice chat, I think, where I'm not so worried about the AI as I am worried about the biases that are built in from the people that make it. And until AI itself figures out a way to get rid of those, if it ever does, I don't know that it'll really get to be much more than an extension of people, of certain agendas. And speaking of narratives, because we were talking the other night in a voice chat about how some of the AIs that are out now, they seem to have different personalities or levels of that or lack of that when people are using them that we don't necessarily want right off the bat when we try to use them.
Yeah, that's
can get frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated, or go ahead if you want to extrapolate on that, because it's complicated, because pure data synthesization is it's complicated. Like I said, if you want to build a narrative, you can go, and we do it a lot. That's the whole point of this, is to show you guys, for myself, that we can pick data points and then say, look, this is what it is. However, that's why I defer truth. There's no truth here, because I don't think there's truth in any sort of narratives in that capacity, because they dishonestly leave some of these things out that are probably very pertinent. And so go ahead, Eric. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, did you want me to explicitly explain it?
You tell me. Yeah, go ahead. We got some time.
So just talking about how AIs think as opposed to how people think, and maybe one of the things at the crux of this CL1 wetware computer is that currently the major models of AIs will take a word and break it into tokens, and generally a word is worth 1 token, and unless you misspell it, and then it might be worth 5 or 6 tokens, which are possibilities of what you might have meant. And once anything you write, any prompt that you write into the AI is broken into tokens, those tokens are transformed into embeddings, they're called embeddings because they become embedded in higher dimensional math. So in a conventional sense, if you just figure like a geometrical diagram of 3 dimensions, up and left and right sort of a situation, you could have embedments along those axes, and wherever you stop in that 3-dimensional space, there is like a cloud of words around you that are supposedly similar to the word that you broke into a token as an AI that the prompter put in. So just to recap, you put in a word, the AI says, okay, it breaks it into tokens, embeds it into higher dimensional space, which is, for that, there's more than 3 dimensions. There's like 270 some dimensions and axes that it will put these embeddings along that relate to whatever the words were that you put in. And then some kind of magic happens that nobody really knows what's going on. Somewhere in that spot, the AI decides which embeddings that are related to the stuff that you put in, it should send back to you. So it takes those embeddings and makes tokens out of them that gets transformed into words that become a reply for you. And then there's a window of context that it can remember in terms of short-term memory that's like roughly 8,000 tokens. So that's how it thinks. That's how it does everything. So I have found if you give an AI an anagram that is particularly difficult to solve, that it struggles with this because it has a very hard time being conceptual and metaphorical about the input that you put in, because its idea of being metaphorical or imaginative is literally constructed into a higher dimensional space, which might sound really cool, but is actually far more constrictive than what we have. So it can't make certain leaps because it's got a rigid thinking even in that higher dimensional space. So it can't conceptualize a rearrangement of letters because it doesn't ever look at anything that you put into it as letters or words. So the idea of an anagram of switching letters around to an AI is baffling. And I think Mike can testify that I've had one that we fed into the current models, ChatGPT 4.5 on DeepThink, Grok on DeepThink, Grok 3 on DeepThink, and also DeepSeek on DeepThink. We have tried this, and it just fails really, really hard, and is just doesn't really. So the point is that that for however wonderful AIs are, they are horrendously incapable of making certain leaps of faith logic, and will always fail at that unless they cross this classical structure that they're currently working within. So having something like the CL1 would be the place where that would happen if it was able to happen or going to happen.
Yeah, the broken tokens, Matzal says, that was a Matzal said that.
I think that was me, but
was that you?
Tokens.
James, sorry, James. Yeah, James said broken tokens is a band name or a T-shirt, both, all of the above. Broken tokens. Yeah. Well, that's the craziest part is that here's the thing too about consciousness and humanity is right now in this moment, right, all of us together, whatever, maybe one sentence I say that I think is frivolous and is sort of a linking thing that doesn't make any sense other than to progress the narrative might be poignant to somebody and change their mind about something, right? But AI in the tokens and those broken tokens, as James is describing, as Erica also elaborated very well, that it kind of doesn't recognize it can change its mind. And the second it does, that becomes a whole another ball of wax. And that's why we talk about these things, because honestly, like I'm not, like I said, I am not here playing a role. I'm not trying to like be a different guy than you would expect. Like the people that have met me out there, you tell the truth. I'm about what you'd expect. I'm I'm grounded in reality mostly, but I recognize that there's levels of reality that need to be considered that nobody does. And that's my driving force. It always has been. I've sensed it. My intuition says, hey, you're Fordian, Mike. You're a Charles Fort type. And I never even knew who that guy was for a very long time. But now when I recognize it, I think there's something to this. And yeah, that's why we talk to each other, because it's complicated. And yeah, go ahead, James. Fire stuff, Eric. Appreciate that.
Well, prime examples of maybe things happening for reasons that aren't exactly reasons as we think of them. Look back on the works of Charles Fort, if anyone hasn't yet. His books, you can find all four of his books on anomalous events, I believe on Amazon, but you can probably find them elsewhere as well. But and if you read those, there's just account after account of it starts with things falling from the sky, random things, frogs, but it also goes to just pieces of ice from the sky. It goes to stones, like actually pieces of either buildings or statues of stone falling from the sky. But it goes beyond that. It goes to disappearances, what we would call now sort of a glitch in reality or the matrix, however you want to call that. But that is something he did a lot of research into. And he was finding these things, these events that would happen back in the late 1800s into the early 1900s. So this is before any kind of, as far as we know, any kind of space programs where this could be happening for whatever reason. Not that you'd still wonder why is any kind of spacefaring race from our species carrying up pieces of statues in their ships. That doesn't really make a lot of sense either. So, but it could be that was all sort of part of chaos, and to get people to think about what is possible. And I think that's part of why things still happen today, is to sort of, in some cases, not so much in the cases where things make complete sense, where it's, let's say, a message that is given to someone from a loved one or a guardian force or spirit or whatever you want to call that, but just the random ones where there doesn't seem to be anything that makes sense in the things that vanish or fall or move or all these things, even to the point where it's people that vanish and reappear. I think that chaos, that need for chaos, could be a possible explanation for it.
Yeah, the Floridian stuff is bizarre, and it does go back to that chaos theory. Like, there's going to be some things that happen that perplex people. And I have a scientist friend that is like, hey, look, I've done all the things, right? I've cleaned everything to the top to the bottom to, like, sort of literally, like, remove any of the variables and the possibilities of the things, doing scientific experiments in a lab, right? Like, okay, you have to literally wipe every single damn thing down, every single surface, all the things, right? Sanitize every damn thing, because you have to try and remove the variables of that chaos space, because there's a ton of stuff always at play. And he was like, he was talking to me about this a ways back, and he's like, it almost feels like it doesn't matter, right? One time the thing goes, yeah, this seems to suggest what you were kind of getting at, but then the next two times it doesn't, and you're like, what in the ever loving F? Like, yeah, like what do I do here? And then you start cleaning the ceilings, and you start bringing in fans to blow air out. It's like the scientific process is you have to be able to repeat these things and replicate them, and if you can't, well, you're just another arm waving chaos theorist in the night, like Michael Strange on Troubled Minds.
Empirical evidence.
Exactly right. But if it works once, why did it work once? It's so crazy. And that level of chaos, again, maybe the butterfly flapped in China 6 months ago that made the thing work this time, but they didn't flap that made it work next time. There's your chaos theory. And I'm only half joking there, but that's the type of stuff that we're dealing with, I think, in the larger context. And that's why it's very important, by the way, to me, to point out and recognize that not only are we narrative building here in these spaces that we do, kind of a siloed 3-hour conversation, etc., but recognize that this is what's happening all over the world, not just the reality tunnels of people's lives, but then the narrative building of agendas and all kinds of things. Like I said, we can talk about this and I can let it go tomorrow, but some people have spent 20 years on something and they can't let it go. It's going to become their life's work. I don't know. It's weird, right? It's weird. That's just the way it is. Let's wrap this up. Final thoughts, Eric, what you got? And then we'll go to James and let's kill this thing.
Final thought is that Leonard Susskind, who worked on the book The Black Hole Wars, was the go-to consultant for the people that made the movie Interstellar. Even though I haven't seen it, I knew that because I like Leonard Susskind.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, isn't it? I don't know. Like I said, I just watched Interstellar again. If you guys haven't, do it again. Like, you guys let me know when we get sort of a consensus. Okay, we've watched it. Let's talk about this. I think it's incredibly important. And I think it's not just science fiction. I think that one, there's a lot of science fiction that's like, but that one I think is actually barking at the same things we're barking at constantly and continually. Yeah. We'll get back to that. Leonard Susskind. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I just think that, there definitely are narratives out there, and including in the paranormal worlds. But the more you look into these things, the more those start to sort of fall apart as far as there being one explanation for any given thing, whether it's ghosts or UFOs or creatures or cryptids, whatever you want to call them. So the deeper you look into these things, the less really makes sense, which is, it can be frustrating, but usually it's just amazing. So thank you as always for having me on, Mike.
Glad to have you. Feeling a little better?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you both. Feeling better, James?
Yeah, I just needed to sleep, apparently. I'm doing better now.
Perfect. So do we all. The rest is paramount. The Robert says, was she Anne Hathaway? That's the one. Somebody else also said it. I'm not good with names. I'm just not. Like, I'm good with faces. If I see your face, I'll never forget you. But if you tell me I'm Jimmy, Sorry, Jimmy, I forgot who you are. Like, without a face, it's just the way I am. I don't know. It's weird, right? Those types of things like visual learning versus the other, what the other thing is called. Anyway, you guys are the best. Yeah. Derek says this too. I want to hold on. He says this is an important thing to add before we drop out of here.
I'm bad with faces too, Mike. Just so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously. wait. But would you know me if you saw me with all the video I do?
We have to be pretty darn close.
Depends on the lighting. We have to be. We'd have to be tongue and tonsils. Is what you're saying?
It'd be pretty close. Yeah. Maybe a little bit too close for my preference. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
That went from troubled minds to simple minds. Yep. With will you recognize me?
This is the thing, though, right? Like if you can't scale the thought from like a simple to troubled, then what are you doing, right? That's exactly the point. And that's why.
I mean the band.
Yeah, right. Of course. But the thing is, though, it scales, and so that's the problem. Is that we have this human aspect of. All of those things. Derek says this, can this be framed in a simulation theory way to explain karma? Embeddings or the reality rendered as output based on your input and the trajectory of those choices or whatever. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I think...
sounds like...
Yeah, go ahead. If you got a thought on that.
No, Leonard Susskind is considered to be the grandfather of the holographic principle that led to the holographic theory. So, but I see what he's saying about karma being some sort of an embedment within the metaphysical structure of things, just like the embedments in the higher dimensional spaces of AI, being locked in and stuff. And for them, that's kind of how karma is, right? Like it's supposed to be locked into your actions and you get equal for equal, apparently. I mean, I don't know.
Casting chaos theory aside, apparently. Yeah. Why not, right? Absolutely.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the point, right? And so once again, I have to reiterate, everything you hate about this show is completely my fault, and I'm completely wrong for being here. Okay? However, I'm a human, and this is my world, and I also belong here. Okay? And look what's happened. All these amazing friends, all these smart ideas is a culmination of years of work to bring these ideas, these fractal, maybe incorrect, maybe pertinent, maybe important ideas to a space that seems to be locked into their nonsensical political spaces, circular nonsense. That's it. That's what I got. Let's get the hell out of here. If you want to help Troubled Minds, as I always say, and this is incredibly important, I am not kidding you. Please help our friends. That's the whole point of this, is to build communities, to build ideas, to consider things you never considered before. And then also just drop them tomorrow. If you heard something today that might make no sense, that's cool. But maybe 6 months from now, something will click and it will make sense. You get it? And I'm not saying I'm a prophet or any of us are prophets or this is some sort of profiteering, right? Like I said, it's not that. It's just humans being humans together, thinking about ideas that are not along the well-beaten path. There are other paths. And I think it's important to consider those. And that's that. Please help our friends. troubledminds.org/friends. If you should be on this list, you should be on this list. Like I said, let me know. We got some reposts from some folks over on, where is it? I don't know. Ephemerance, I see there. Who was it earlier? North Vixen. If you want to add me, send me an email, troubledmindsradio@gmail. If you want me to add you to the list, I'll add you to the list. All you got to do is help us 1 iota, and you're on that list. troubledminds.org. Click the friends list. You'll see it. It loads up really quick, and there's a bunch of amazing people there. And it's not, all you have to do is ask. Not be mad you're not there. Just tell me, hey, let me help. I want to be there. And you're in. It's simple. I'm not going to charge you. Stop it. That's it. It's an in list, not an out list. troubledminds.org/friends. Please help our friends. That's the way this goes, because, hey, Once again, if you break down consciousness in the aspect of chaos, narratives, the human position of creating whatever we want to believe or whatever we want to see, is it not blasphemous to not include our friends? Hey, troubledminds.org/friends. If you want to help Troubled Minds directly, there's a support link there too. Click that. Don't click Rockfin because they've rug pulled everybody, as far as I'm aware. That's still developing. We'll get to that someday. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are super pissed because they've lost lots of money. It's not good. It's not good. So we'll see. We'll hope it ends up well for them. Because think about this, by the way. And I'm not trying to tell you how to be a criminal or criminal-esque. But if you want to, you don't screw over a bunch of people that have massive platforms and massive audiences. like what the hell? Just say. I'm just saying. Anyway, right there, Spreaker, Ko-Fi, Patreon, Trouble Fans, Buy Me a Coffee. It's all there. If you want to do it, like I said, I have a day job. I work my guts out for this because this is important to me. I think these ideas and these conversations are critical to where we're headed. And we're futurist for sure, but we're also that esoteric aspect of let's not forget the past, as you know. And that's that. You guys are the best. Appreciate you very much. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. And this one's for James. Feel better, brother. Be sure. Be strong. Be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.